This is bad. One of the sect elders revolted when he noticed the enemy sages approaching the portals, and unconsciously rushed toward them. Where are you going? General Sully laughed and lowered his halberd. That elder was a level 42 emperor, yet when he saw that simple attack coming he stiffened in place, he felt death approaching. Boom! The elder felt a huge explosion and was sent flying tens of meters back. When he finally stopped he rushed to see the damage to his body. He found that he was completely fine. Sect Master! The elder shouted. He realized what happened. Sect Master Jabba appeared in front of him and stopped the attack. And it was clear that he was not left unscathed. Jabba's hands shook violently and he found it difficult to control them. Then he looked back at the general. This was his second exchange with General Sully and he was defeated in both. If not for his strong body he would have been severely injured by Nor. The difference between levels 45 and 47 was not something that could be crossed easily. Then Jabba smiled as he looked at the general. Why the rush? Elder? Let us stay here and watch our enemies' plans be crushed. There is nothing better than seeing the shocked expressions on the faces of the arrogant. General Sully furrowed his eyebrows slightly, not knowing the source of this confidence, as the situation near the portals was inevitable. The problem that faced his soldiers at the beginning was the resistance of the opponent and the strong formation, but this collapsed after the bold plan they followed. Once the portals are controlled and the locals are surrounded from behind, the battle will end. No, the whole war will end. Immediately after victory in the ground battle, the army and ships will come to besiege the local martial emperors and kill them quickly. Whether or not control of the entire eastern region today is literally dependent on the success of this assured plan. When he heard the sound of screams of pain coming from the direction of the portals, the general turned towards them again to watch his soldiers slaughtering everyone who came out of the portals and taking control of their surroundings. But he saw the opposite. His soldiers who penetrated the formations and arrived near the portals were all killed by the soldiers wearing the golden and black armor. What? The general shouted. The ones with the golden and black armor actually stayed behind, but their numbers were small in relation to the overall picture, about 1,000 soldiers in total, and they did not participate in the battle, so they were ignored. But at this moment they spread out behind the army and around the portals. Ha! I paid 100,000 energy pearls for each piece of that armor, and all the members of this squad have strength at the peak level of Sage and are armed with all possible talismans and combat arrays. I also paid an additional 50,000 for each one so that they can go to the central region and participate in the training war against your martial emperors over there. If you want to pass them, you'll have to go yourself, ha. Jabba laughed proudly. Buying these armor at their exorbitant price made his stomach ache, but seeing them in battle made up for everything. 100,000 what? The general forgot about his dead elite and looked back at Jabba in shock, then started pointing toward the armor. This? 100,000 energy pearls apiece? This one over there? Jabba furrowed his eyebrows and tilted his head towards Orzon. See? He seems to think we've been scammed too. Orzon quickly waved. No, he's surprised how something so great can be sold for only 100,000 energy pearls. General Sully looked at the armor with shaking eyes and an open mouth. Then, without saying a word, he picked up his halberd and flew towards the portals. Where do you think are you going? Jabba swooped forward with his hammer. Stop! One of the officers of the 14th Fleet attacked Jabba, but one of the sect elders confronted him. In the blink of an eye, the sky was also set on fire as a battle broke out between 50 commanders of the 14th Fleet against 70 sect elders. Go away! General Sully stopped midway and waved the halberd at Jabba. Jabba used reverse gravity to quickly move out of the way of the attack. Then, with another push, Jabba closed the distance between himself and his opponent and brought the hammer down on his head. The general raised his halberd and repelled the attack, but contrary to what he expected, he was not able to repel it easily. Rather, he felt his body sinking down quickly. Boom! Cough! The general found himself in a deep hole on the ground. Then he stared into Jabba's eyes, who was now a few meters away from him. Angrily, what physical strength? You have a way to strengthen the body here? Also, you used the path of gravity to increase the weight of your physical strikes. Your strategy is not bad at all, local. This might actually cause some inconvenience. I'm honored, Mr. Occupier. Jabba laughed with a confident smile. How about we act as sensible commanders and watch from the side? What will our soldiers say about us if we fight from the start like this? What is the use of armies then? Or do you not trust your army? Before the general responded, he sent a glance to the side. The ground battle has become almost equal. An ordinary earthly battle. A multi-planetary imperial army against a damned local army. And they are equal. It is true that ground battles have almost been forgotten since all the Empire's soldiers now are at least saints and can fly, but the best ground battle tactics gathered from 9 planets are still taught in military academies to open the horizons of officers. Even if they have not experienced these ground battles before, they still have knowledge of these things much higher than a local army. The situation on the 2 flanks of the army is good, as the 2 legions are making significant progress in front of the local army. It is not the expected rapid progress, but it is reasonable. However, the situation is very dangerous for the legion in the middle, which has been besieged and is being attacked from 3 sides at the same time. The soldiers of the 2 legions on the outskirts are trained well. They will find an opportunity to circumvent and break the siege on the middle legions eventually, but this will take some time and many losses will have already occurred. More importantly, the portals are still spitting out soldiers with every passing moment, and it is no longer possible to destroy or besiege them after the soldiers in the black and gold armor demonstrated their strength. If they continue to come out at this pace, then by the time the Middle Legion siege is lifted, all 3 legions will be surrounded. After confirming the dire situation of the ground forces, the general looked up slightly. There was a battle taking place between the spaceships against the Draco Legion. The spaceships are very large and made of tough metals. They are intended to travel through space and get through any obstacles they encounter, so damaging one is not easy. Also, each one carries hundreds of cannons that can fire rapidly and in any direction. Each of these vehicles is a flaunting fortress. On the other side, there are 3,000 winged Draco and 9,000 saints and sages riding them, each one of them armed with white divine bows. The Dracos are very fast creatures, so shooting them with the cannons is not an easy task. And at the same time, the Draco riders shoot their arrows at the ships at a rapid rate, intending to destroy the cannons. Of course, the fleet didn't show everything it has yet, but those winged beasts didn't do much either. Who knows what else do they have? At this rate, this aerial battle does not look like it will be resolved anytime soon. Then there is the high-end battle, the battle of the emperors, the battle that can directly determine the victor of the war. The Great Serpent Empire side has 50 martial emperors, some of whom are at the beginning levels of the Emperor realm, but more than half of them are mid-level martial emperors, so even if their enemies were 70 low-level local martial emperors, they should have swept them from the beginning and forced them to retreat or even killed them outright. But this did not happen. In fact, they don't look like they are winning. The general's facial expressions changed when he followed the battle of the martial emperors. The thing that balanced the scale was those black banners carried by the local martial emperors. All the local emperors brought these banners out of nowhere. Every few banners took the shape of a circle in the middle of the air, and then inside them was created a domain completely different from its surroundings. Domains in which the wind was stronger, others in which the temperature dropped sharply, and others in which flame tornadoes appeared. Any martial emperors who used the fire path would witness great increases in their strength as they fight within this artificial flame domain. It is quite similar to Jabba, whose power has increased greatly because he uses the high law of gravity in Naharis. 70 local martial emperors who used 70 different law domains, making the group battle extremely annoying to the emperors of the Great Serpent Empire. Do you like the instant battle domain arrays? We bought them at the cost of 10 million pearls per one just for today. Jabba laughed, finally finding a use for these toys that raised his blood pressure. The veins on the general's forehead twitched when he heard the number and wanted to curse loudly, but he restrained himself. 10 million pearls per one artificial domain. This local is either joking, or perhaps lying, or perhaps he is mentally disabled and does not know how to distinguish numbers. After assessing the general situation, the general calmed down a little, and then looked into Jabba's eyes for a few seconds. Who are you? This planet is huge in size, and it is normal for it to have huge resources and a strong population, but not to this degree. And at the same time, you are not strong enough to be a planetary empire. What exactly is going on? Do you have an overlord? In fact, This is not the first time the Great Serpent Empire has faced a situation like this. One of the planets they found and are currently at war with is a planet called Gutta. It is their bad luck that an overlord from the middle planetary belt found that planet before them and communicated with one of the kings and gave him techniques and quite a few manuals to unite the planet under his authority. After their arrival and the invasion began on planet Gutta, that overlord did not back down and lose hope in that planet, but rather increased his support. It is clear that this overlord was not willing to give up his foothold in the young planetary belt. His stubbornness made the Great Serpent Empire realize that there were good resources on planet Gutta and they increased the ferocity of their attack. And for this reason up to this moment there are 8 spaceship fleets fighting on that planet and they still can't control it thoroughly. Jabba wanted to mock, denying that such a person existed, but he remembered the presence of Robin and the presence of that all-seeing person above him, so he returned to his silence. It doesn't matter. Unfortunately, this planet is no longer something I can conquer with ease. Today's battle is over. Let's meet another day, local. General Sully then picked up his spear and fired a large energy attack at Jabba again, swoosh, and then launched himself towards the mothership. Boom! Jabba blocked the attack with sheer force and then jumped after the general. Where are you going? In the blink of an eye, Jabba caught up with the general and came down on him with the hammer from behind. Sully stopped again and used a wall of energy to block the incoming attack, but the wall easily split open and the hammer came down on him, pushing him down dozens of meters again. Damn it! The force that was throwing him around like a leaf in a tornado was something mysterious to him. It is crystal clear that this local is at level 45. In fact, he seems like he recently broke through to this level perhaps a month or so ago. However, he can confront him. Him is a general at level 47, someone who has been at this level and has been accustomed to it for more than 2,000 years. Level 45 of the internal energy system, a very high law of gravity that was clearly the major law itself, immense physical strength, the tattoos on his body glowing dimly, all of them tried to attack. This combination of powers made him a match for him. The Great Serpent Empire's 14th Fleet General. The law of gravity here is really annoying, but it's alright. I didn't want to use this power in such a despicable place. But you should have known that you're not the only one who can use a heavenly law. Let me show you the power of Durger the Devourer. General Sully knew immediately that Jabba was canceling out the strong gravity above him, giving him a few times his normal speed, so he no longer tried to outrun him. So he stopped again in mid-air and waved his halberd, this time a dark aura covering the halberd's blade. Clank, the blade collided with the head of the giant hammer and as usual, Jabba was sent flying backward. Let's try again. Only when Jabba was about to lunge again did he notice something beside his eye. The hammerhead began to erode quickly and turn into something resembling sand. This hammer had accompanied Jabba for decades. It was a solid and rare metal worthy of the son of the leader of the Lightning Giants tribe, and yet it completely disintegrated within a few seconds in front of his eyes. Jabba came to his senses when the handle was corroded and almost worn out his fingers, so he threw what was left of his hammer away. That piece of metal turned to sand before it touched the ground. What demonic technique is this? A slight shiver ran down Jabba's back, this ominous feeling. It reminded him of the Supreme General of the true beginning empire. After the general gained some distance between himself and Jabba, he took a deep inhale, then straightened his voice and shouted, "Retreat! All forces withdraw into the spaceships immediately!" What? Whether enemy or ally, everyone shouted in surprise at the same moment. Especially the allies, the soldiers of the 14th Legend, were in a state of stupefaction. They had come to wipe out the entire eastern region before the other half of their fleet destroyed the western region. But now, less than an hour later, they heard orders to withdraw. Whatever everyone was thinking, panic struck the entire battlefield. The Sec soldiers accelerated the pace of the attack and began sending random attacks to kill even one more enemy before their opponents retreated, and the Imperial soldiers tried to retreat faster towards the ships so as not to be left behind. This caused their backs to be exposed to the enemy, and their death tally to multiply very quickly. Jabba furrowed his eyebrows at what he saw. He never expected something like this. Was it a good idea to order such a destructive retreat? Haven't you heard of something called an organized retreat plan before? Haha, my enemy is giving me advice now? How ironic. The general laughed angrily and tightened his hand on his halberd. How could he not know the consequences of his decision? The problem is that he does not have time to make any retreat plans. As long as those portals are still spitting endless soldiers, there is no point in any plan. You won this round, locals. Rejoice and celebrate as much as you want, for it will be your last. Big words come out of the mouth of a loser. A sly smile appeared on Jabba's face. We've been waiting for you for a long time, but it seems we were overestimating you. No one from your so-called planetary empire will take a single stone from Nahari. Ha 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 ha, the general laughed loudly. What you see now is half of my fleet because the other half has landed in the western region. Can imagine what would have happened if twice these numbers had landed here? Would you even dare to talk to me like you do now? Jabba furrowed his eyebrows slightly, not knowing if that person was lying. But if he was telling the truth, then this would already be a problem. If the entire army of invaders contained 120,000 soldiers and 100 martial emperors, this is a lot. He would have been able to survive with the many plans he had prepared, but the losses would have been too many. Assuming that those 8 portals have soldiers behind them that can fight an entire fleet, even though I doubt it, we are still the 14th fleet out of 30 Imperial fleets. Do you understand what this means, local? A clear look of contempt flashed in General Sully's eyes. Jabba opened his eyes wide. Yes, be shocked, terrified, and expect death. That's all you have to do when the Great Serpent Empire visits you. Ha ha ha. The look on Jabba's face greatly impressed the general, and he turned to watch the retreat. As expected, the death toll among the Empire's soldiers had accumulated to a dangerous level. The first thing that came to the general's mind when he saw the madness in the eyes of the locals and their terrible intent to kill was that they loved their homeland very much and that they wanted to reduce the number of their enemies as much as possible. He simply did not know about the point system that Jabba had conveyed to the sect. Damn it! Use maximum power! After the general's shout rang out, the largest ship in the fleet, which was identical to that of the elite Vanguard Squad's ship, rose higher into the air again and a huge cannon appeared in its bow. When Jabba saw the sight of the massive cannon, he remembered the report he had bought from the Shadow Swords about the cannon shot that killed 3,000 saints and sages in the central region. So he raised his voice as well. Disperse! Forget about the formation jump in different directions. A portion of the sect's army with the right minds carried out the order as soon as they heard the word disperse, but a larger portion remained in place, momentarily comprehending what? Forget about the formation, but the boom. Oh no. Just as the report stated, the cannon fired an intense beam of light into the crowd. In the blink of an eye, a huge explosion occurred, burning a quarter of the battlefield. Jabba's shout reduced the casualties, but still, with just a look, the dead could be estimated at nearly 1,000. This mighty shot, which was equal to the attack of several martial emperors, brought fear into the hearts of the sect's soldiers, heavy their steps, and increased the momentum of the Empire's soldiers, speeding up the evacuation process. In the blink of an eye, there was no longer a single soldier outside the ships except the martial emperors. Even the ship that Jabba shot down rose from the ground with some minor damage, but it floated without problems and also took out its cannons and clashed with the Draco Legion along with the rest of the ships. After making sure that everything was prepared for his departure, the general looked back at Jabba. What happened today is a stain of disgrace on my war record that will not be removed until the eastern region is destroyed by me. Get ready. I will return as soon as I gather the rest of my fleet. As if I would allow it. Jabba took out another giant hammer from his space ring, golden this time, and then used a long-range attack. Humph, you are afraid to get closer already? Do you think you are smart now that you will keep your distance? I admit that combining that law of gravity with your strong body gives you some leg up, but without the close-quarters fighting style you are nothing. The general laughed angrily at the incoming concentrated attack and once again moved his halberd coated in that black energy, ready to dismantle the attack as soon as it came into contact. But something strange happened. The black energy is what disintegrated as if it had never existed. Jabba's attack went all the way and hit the general's rib, breaking it immediately. The general opened his eyes to the last of them and took a different look at his opponent. This time, The eyes of this local leader were shining with a different color, green. A strange feeling of danger frightened him when he saw those eyes. The general did not shout and did not prepare for another attack. He just turned around and pushed himself as quickly as possible towards the nearest ship. And here it became clear why spaceships are called by this name. As soon as the general boarded the ship, the engines were activated and they set off towards the west. And in the next moment, they all disappeared out of sight. Jabba and the rest of the sect elders looked at the horizon for a few seconds in loss, before Jabba threw the hammer aside and shouted his lungs out, "Damn!" General Sully kicked the nearest chair to him, turning it into dust, and went looking for something else to break. The strange thing is that no one stood up to try to stop him or calm him down. There were 5 other emperors with him in the cabin, yet they were all sitting silently as if they had birds on their heads. Although they were not defeated, nor did they lose a single emperor, they also caused great losses to the Winged Beast Legion and the enemy's ground forces. They were also besieged, more than 4,000 of their soldiers were killed, and they were forced to withdraw. When was the last time the Great Serpent Empire suffered this kind of insult? They had taken control of 4 planets other than their home planet, and were currently fighting on 4 other planets at the same time, and after thousands or even tens of thousands of battle records, the number of times the Empire was forced to retreat could be counted on the fingers, and they were all after a heated battle. Not in this way. From their perspective, what happened today was a devastating defeat. And the biggest problem is that it was at the hands of a bunch of locals. Are these bastards really local? The general muttered as he thought about this point, those engraved weapons, and the innovation called arrays and space portals, and they were also waiting for us. What is going on here? One of the sitting martial emperors heard the general muttering and quickly stood up. "General, our course has been set so that we can go to the western region to meet with the rest of the fleet, but doesn't this mean that we will be thrown into another unknown location?" Kisha did not report a problem with the other half of the fleet. "This means they are safe." The general waved. "We are the ones who landed in the worst possible place. They did not send anything negative or even positive. They do not even respond to any calls at all." "What does this mean?" Another officer intervened. "Maybe the western region has something that is blocking the movement of ship signals. How are we going to find them even if we go there? Look at how vast this planet is. Are we going to take all our 20 ships in the western region on a search trip?" Boom, the general hit another table and broke it. "I know all this, but what do you want then? Should we have stayed put in a situation like this until I received a signal from the damned Kisha? If we don't go and look for them to unite the fleet and return to take our revenge, what else can we do?" One of the officers took a step forward. "We are picking up signals from the Vanguard ship and know its precise location. I recommend that we retreat to the safe zone that Elite Force Number 7 has secured and rearrange our papers there." "What did you say?" The general's anger turned to killing intent. "Please put your personal problems aside for now and make the right choice." Another officer stood between them. "From the safe zone we can send 1 or 2 ships to search for the other half of the fleet while the soldiers can have their rest. And when the rest of the fleet comes to the safe zone we can use it as a point to launch attacks on the east and west." This is what should have happened from the beginning. General Sully took a few steps and grabbed that martial emperor by the neck. "You insignificant thing are going to teach me about what should have happened? Do you know who I am?" The rest of the martial emperors in the cabin stood one behind the other, all of them wearing serious looks and furrowed brows. Some of them even took a step forward. General Sully looked around and saw the seed of rebellion being planted. He knew that if he tried to force them to do something using only his strength of authority right now, he would lose control of the 14th Fleet, as well as the dream of the rank of Marshal. Nah, he would most likely be court-martialed as a failed general and be executed. On the other hand, his failure to land in the safe zone could have been ignored if he had made progress in the eastern region. But now that he has been defeated and gone to the safe zone, Seagal will laugh at him until his lips touch his ears. And this is in addition to the stigma that will adorn his file. But this compared to the loss of the entire 14th Fleet. The general let go of his officer's neck and fell to the ground, catching his breath. Then he raised both his arms. "Pardon me, the defeat messed with my mind a little. It's good that you are with me to correct my mistake. Let's go towards the safe zone." The officers looked at each other for a moment. then moved to pass orders. Central region. Wind whistle sound. Seagal stood on top of the city wall, looking right and left, moving his ears in all different directions, trying to see or hear something. But still, there was nothing. The area around the city turned into a desert. An hour ago, during the course of the normal daily battles, a report came that support had arrived, but they landed in the east and west. When he lost hope that they would come soon and return to fight, he found that all the local forces had suddenly withdrawn and spread in all directions. Even the tents, kitchens, and other logistical areas were nowhere to be found. They wrapped it up within minutes and took it with them. On any other planet, Commander Seagal would have ordered that they be pursued or that an investigation be opened into what happened. But he remained where he was. An hour passed and he did not move a muscle or give any order. Even his officers, each one of them remained standing in his place, and not one of them was seized by enthusiasm and tried to leave or go to the commander to request orders. They were all afraid that it was a trap, or that it was a new game that the person responsible for these training battles had thought of. They were afraid that if they went out, they would anger the men in black and that they would punish them by sending a larger army. What they did not know was that the place wasn't the only one that had been evacuated, but rather the entire central region was being evacuated at this moment. So if they left the walls now, they would be able to control the entire central region on their own. But they will not move. The elite vanguard team, the team that is said to be equivalent to a fleet itself, has been morally broken. The next moment, Seagal heard a noise approaching from the east and turned towards him. Is this an Empire spaceship? But it's the fleet. Support has arrived. The next moment, the ships of the fleet had reached the city and were landing around it. And then Commander Seagal felt a giant hand descend on his shoulder without idle introductions. Give me a report of everything you know about this cursed place, and I mean everything. An hour later, inside the largest palace in the city. I will kill you. The general took a few steps and extended his hand towards the 7th Elite Squad leader Seagal's neck. Who do you think I am? Seagal took out his weapon and was ready to fight as well. Even though he was one level below Sully, he was not ready to accept any insult. Bandal quickly came forward and stood between them. Please calm down, everyone. This is just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? How could he hide all this information from us and send you alone with a simple message that the place only contains energy pearls? What kind of vanguard squad is this? He has put my fleet in danger. It is a betrayal of the entire empire, and we must deal with him as the great traitor he is. Even with Pandal and several other lords in the middle trying to stop him, Sul still advanced slowly, his eyes giving too much anger and killing intent. I sent Pandal quickly because I thought the wormhole would disappear. This is normal. What is not normal is that you evaded the safe zone and went down a rampage like a pig, looking for trouble while you know nothing about the place. What does your stupidity have to do with me? Seagal waved his weapon as well. Do you think you are important because you are one level higher than me? If you have a problem, take it to the head of the noble Heros family. He will welcome you with open arms. Upon hearing the name of the noble Heros family, Sully stopped and threw his halberd aside. The noble Heros family is a family that was formed only a few centuries ago. Its founder is a war hero who managed to achieve a great feat, as he saved the beloved grandson of His Majesty the Emperor from certain death on the planet Gutta, and in appreciation for him, he received a large dose of Durger the Devourer's limited blood, and this made him and his entire subsequent line of children and grandchildren blessed with the high talent and quickly assumed important positions. General Sully didn't have a problem with Seagal in particular. He and many others had a problem with all of the noble Heros lineage because they appeared on the stage so quickly and took the chances that were meant to be theirs and their families, but none of them wanted to face Heros himself, the current commander of the First Fleet. What is happening here? At this moment 4 other individuals entered, varying slightly in physical characteristics but all at least as large as the giant Ohun. Oh, Pars, Deerit, Molad, Jake, you all came? How did you arrive at the same time? Seagal's face brightened as he finally put his weapon back. These 4 were the commanders of the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th fleets respectively, and 2 of them were from the Heros noble family. We were assigned to assist the 14th Legion after it was estimated that the planet might contain a number of martial emperors, General Bars furrowed his eyebrows and looked at Sully. We initially agreed to meet on the other side of the wormhole and land together. But when we got out, we found that the 14th Fleet has disappeared. Gravity is what pulled the fleet towards the planet. I have nothing else to say. General Sully waved and went to sit on the side. We literally experienced the same gravity and came with the same ships, and we know that this is just an excuse. General Duret smiled. Nothing else to say. Deal with this excuse and shut up. Then Sully angrily pointed at Seagal. Now leave me alone and ask this clown what we are facing here. Nothing matters. Haha. Seagal came forward and patted Pars and Duret, his relatives, on the shoulders. With 5 fleets here, what else matters? The 4 generals smiled proudly. This was something to be expected. Who could stand up to the 5 fleets of the Great Serpent Empire? But their smiles froze when they heard General Sully's voice. Tell them, you failed scout, that this planet has seen 4 Truth Chosens, and that 2 of them are still alive. Tell them that one of them unified the eastern region, and that I had to fight him not knowing who he is. No wonder I was defeated. Those eyes, no wonder. He was using a master law. I didn't even feel that he was a Truth Chosen until the last moment. Was he playing with me? What would have happened if I had not made the decision to retreat? All because of you. Huh? The 4 generals opened their mouths at once. Don't pay attention to him. His nerves are a little tired because he fought in the eastern region and was badly defeated. Sigel continued patting his relatives on the shoulders, but when he noticed the look of question and shock in their eyes, he sighed and began to explain what had happened with them since they arrived on the planet. Then General Sully began explaining in detail what happened in the battle and the weapons he saw, and of course, he did not forget to mention the space portals. Space portals, an innovation called domain arrays, and they have epic ranked equipment in those black and gold armors. This is bad. One of the generals furrowed his eyebrows. This is the product of the 4 heavens chosen. Or is there an overlord have a hand in this world? Either way, we were drawn into a trap. The damn wormhole that transported us here is messing with us. General Sully said excitedly. Exaggerating what he saw and the power of the 4th heavens chosen was his only way to avoid blame for the defeat and withdrawal. There are more planets we can conquer. General Molad sent glances toward everyone. He was promoted to the rank of general after his achievements in the war on the planet Gutta. He is well aware of what it means to fight against a planet that possesses this type of techniques and weapons. A few centuries have passed and they have barely managed to control 60% of that planet. If it were not for His Majesty's stubbornness and that he did not want to waste centuries of conflict, and he also didn't want to give them a chance to catch their breath so that they would not choose revenge later, they would have already withdrawn from there. That planet is consuming more of them than it is giving them at this point. I can't allow this. Seagal quickly advanced. During 2 months of fighting in the central region, I was able to collect 20,000 energy pearls with ease. This planet can cover the Overlord's needs and have a large surplus. We can ask the Overlord to buy us coordinates of other planets with that surplus or hand us more techniques. We can't give up on a gold mine like this because it has some difficulties. General Pars looked around and then muttered. Aside from the 6 fleets assigned to guarding the mother planet and the other 4 planets fully belonging to us, the rest of the fleets are spread out on 4 other planets, fighting at the same time or conducting reconnaissance to discover more planets. Invading this place means that we would need more support. I don't know if this is possible. Seagal quickly chimed in excitedly. Let's do it ourselves. We do not have to annihilate the entire population at once. This is not the first time we face difficulties when invading a planet. Whether it's because of the violent environment or the stubborn local population, we haven't been able to wipe out local life on 4 planets. We've kept moving forward step by step, depleting the planet little by little every day. What is the problem if we do the same here? Rather, what is the problem if we ask for more support? Just the presence of energy pearls in these numbers makes this planet 100 times more important than those 4 planets combined. The generals all looked at the ground and then scattered, each one on a different seat. After a full minute, someone opened his mouth. Right now, we have to reunite the army first. Then we will think about what we have to do with the Truth Chosen of the Eastern region. Has the other half of the 14th Fleet returned yet? No, the signals are still cut off. We sent 2 ships an hour ago to search for them, but contact with them was also cut off. But that's okay. They know where the safe zone is. It won't be long before they find them and return to us. The connection was lost? Where exactly was it lost? Shall we go and take a look? General Deeritt asked. Sully waved indifferently. No need. It was interrupted suddenly and it didn't look like they were in a battle. Maybe there is a mysterious field in that area causing this phenomenon. The last message we received from the two ships was a routine message saying, "I see crimson creatures flying." Then the communication immediately went down after that. Eastern region, the battleground. A few hours had passed since the fleet of invaders fled. That short battle left 4,000 dead and more than 7,000 seriously injured soldiers. Immediately after the fleet left, the soldiers began carrying their colleagues and running with them toward the two field hospitals to rescue them. But due to the severity of the injuries and the number of the injured thought it would take time, so they set up a camp at the spot to protect their colleagues. Of course, they can't use the instant teleportation arrays to return. Even if they were on the same planet, they would still burn a lot of energy transporting those many men back and forth, so when going back to their posts they would have to walk. There were many dead, more wounded, and a long road ahead of them. And yet their morale was high, touching the sky. They forced invaders coming from another world to retreat in front of them, and they wounded their general. Of course, Jabba didn't see it that way, damn it. Even after 2 hours had passed, he was still standing there, looking at the horizon, replaying the events in his head, and cursing every moment. "You're being too hard on yourself." Orzon came up from behind him and patted Jabba on the shoulder. "What did you expect from your first fight against an empire that specializes in planetary conquest? In fact, I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Didn't you hear him? He said he would bring double that army and come back for revenge." Jabba pointed toward the horizon. "We can still fight them even if it's true. Our soldiers are numerous and our hearts are firm." Orzon replied calmly. After the process of unifying the eastern region and training the soldiers, the Sect's actual army numbers were enough to shock anyone. Of course, they didn't have more martial emperors, but if they won the ground battle, the army can help the Sect's 70 martial emperors win their battle. What about those 30 fleets then? Can we handle those too? Jabba clenched his fists, just thinking about the sight of the sky with all those ships making his defeat a little dull. He might be lying. Orzon looked to the side. "No, it wasn't a lie. I could tell just by looking. We should have expected this from a planetary empire anyway. The soldiers are happy because we made them withdraw? How stupid. They were in our hands and we let them escape. We should have eliminated this group here, but we let them keep their strength intact. Damn it!" Jabba's nerves twitched slightly with anger. "We are too weak, Orzon, too weak. We must increase our strength even more or the entire planet will be lost. If we do not do something, who will?" Sect Master, at that moment another emperor came walking over and saluted Jabba and then nodded to Orzon. "A message has come from the scouts of the Great Line. Perhaps you should hear it. What's going on? Did the enemies leave some spies behind? Kill them all or just ignore them?" Jabba waved unconcernedly, his focus not being on these small things at the moment. "No, Sect Master, they are saying that huge numbers of residents of the central region have begun to enter the Great Line between our regions. There is no approximate number currently, but there are at least hundreds of millions, and the number is still increasing." Jabba looked at that elder slowly. Even Orzon looked shocked. Hundreds of residents coming from the central region? Jabba did not wait for the elder, but rather directly took out a live observation array and set the coordinates of the border with the central region, and a strange scene appeared before them. The hundreds of millions that the elders mentioned was indeed just an approximate number. The land was completely filled with people and more of them continued to appear in the frame with every passing second. When Jabba looked closer to the picture, he found that these people were divided into small families, each family from 3 to 20 members, and in each family there was at least one soldier who used the laws, leading the way for them and eliminating any danger he saw. "Those soldiers," Orzon muttered. "Are these all the residents of the central region?" Even the elder who came to deliver the report opened his eyes to the end of them. "What is happening here? Why are they all fleeing to us at the same time? If they continue to enter the Great Line like this, I fear that these soldiers will form an army no less than our current army." Those soldiers who participated in the training battles against the Vanguard spaceship for more than a year, all of them participated in wars against martial emperors and can be considered elites. They are also armed with divine weapons. Even without martial emperors among them, the strength of our army will almost double if they joined us. Look what's happening at the Great Line itself. Jabba pointed towards the front row. A large number of sages appeared in golden armor, attacking anything they saw. To cross the border, you must cross hundreds of kilometers of beasts, poisonous gas, swamps full of venomous creatures, quicksand, and all the dangers that a mind can imagine. But it has never happened that this large number of people crossed the line at once. In this way, if they find a beast, they will kill it. If they find a poisoned gas, they will inhale it all. If they find swamps, they will drink its water and roast its venomous creatures. If they find quicksand, they will turn into solid rocks simply by urinating on them. They are changing the nature of the place. This point of the Great Line will become a safe path forever. The elder who specializes in correspondence was astonished by what he saw, until he received a call that interrupted his concentration, and his facial expression changed from astonishment to shock. Sect Master, put in the array the coordinates of our Eastern Maritime Great Line quickly. Jabba furrowed his eyebrows slightly. The Eastern Great Line is a deep ocean with nothing behind it except the Western region. Because of the vastness and turmoil of the ocean and the abundance of dangers and huge sea beasts in it, these borders are mostly ignored. It is usually considered a dangerous place where sea beasts' waves come from and one must be careful of. But no one sees it as a great line that can be crossed. Usually, whoever wants to immigrate to the Western region must cross the border separating the Central region first, then cross the entire Central region, then cross the border separating it from the Western region. This is easier for him than thinking about crossing the Eastern Maritime border. Jabba did not know the reason for the elders' request, but he did it anyway and put in the coordinates for the Far East Great Line. And a strange image appeared before him, something that he never thought could be done. What the? Jabba took a step forward, startled. When Jabba activated the array, he conjured up in his mind the view of the open ocean and the back scales of huge beasts floating on the surface. But what he saw was a chilling sight. He saw a bridge of ice cutting the ocean in half. An endless bridge that seemed to be coming from the direction of the Western region. At this moment, there were more than 200,000 users of the water path of different races standing side by side in the front rows, turning the water into extremely solid ice. It appeared more like crystal, and not just a layer sufficient to walk on, but from their numbers and the intense focus shown on them, it was clear that they wanted to freeze this bridge from the surface to the very bottom of the ocean. Not only that, directly behind them, the users of the earth and plant paths were cutting open the ocean floor and extracting pillars to strengthen the bridge, increase its size, and create foundations for it. As for behind those vanguards, the ice bridge was not showing its color due to the large number of people standing on it. Hundreds of millions, no, these numbers can certainly be mentioned in billions. Most of them were old people, women, and children, advancing slowly, one step after another, as the bridge became longer. On the sides of the ice bridge, there were users of fire, wind, divine tattoos, and all other known paths fighting the sea beasts and pushing them away from their families, a large number of whom were holding golden weapons. Within sight, Jabba and the two elders noticed powerful energy explosions and rapid evaporation of the ocean water. When he zoomed in a little, Jabba found a battle between 3 demon emperors against a giant sea snake. It was clear that they were trying to keep it away from the bridge. The 3 were astonished. Their formation was strong and their preparation was clearly sufficient, and they also had the support of demon emperors who appeared to be from the true beginning empire. They were undoubtedly able to reach the eastern region safely, but 2 things caught the attention of the 3 of them. The first, the faces of everyone, whether they were mortals or law users, all had expressions of panic and fear, all of them wanting to advance and reach the eastern region as quickly as possible. And the second, until this moment, they had not found a single giant among them. Are these the residents of the western region? The correspondence elder muttered in amazement. Even Orzon seemed to have fallen under a spell. They are trying to create a permanent bridge to connect the 2 regions. But why? Jabba asked in shock. The exodus of the residents of the central region was shocking enough, And now the residents of the western region are coming in as well. The Elder of Correspondence put his hand on his chin. It is impossible for this type of coordination to be random. The only entity capable of doing something of this magnitude is, they are the Shadow Swords and no one else. Orzon furrowed his eyebrows. Is it possible that they are planning to create a famine in the eastern region? Even Orzon, who appointed himself as the primary defender of His Excellency and his subordinates, could not help but think that something bad was happening now. They had barely managed to unite the eastern region under their authority, and then they found 2 other regions invading their lands. Each of the 5 regions holds around 15 billion intelligent beings. How will they deal with all of these? Creating famine? Right. How could I not have thought of this? Taking in a few billion people at once would create instant famine. Why would His Excellency do something like this to us? We did not refuse him anything during the last few years. The Elder of Correspondence spoke in horror. If the intention is to really harm us, then we are doomed. We can fight those invaders, but His Excellency as well? No, no, no. Hey, has dementia eaten both your heads? The land of Nahari is always fertile. If you eat grass and wild fruits, you will survive. This is not to mention the modern farming techniques that His Excellency gave you. Have a little good faith in your benefactor. Suddenly a harsh voice appeared among them. A masked figure dressed in black revealed himself. Oh, it's just passing thoughts. Sorry, really sorry. Orzon quickly scratched his head, and a few drops of sweat started to appear on his forehead. It's not every day he sees an Emperor of the Dark Path. Jabba was not as surprised by the newcomer. Next time ask permission before you get close. I might react out of instinct and knock out your teeth or something. Your authority is reserved, Nahari Union Sect Master, but please show more respect to the Shadow Swords organization. None of us are going to lose their teeth anytime soon. Shadow Sword spoke in his artificial voice, but even in his artificial tone one could sense the deep pride inherent in him. I don't want to waste anyone's time, so let's get to the point. His Excellency said that the eastern region would face difficulties against the invaders, so he ordered the residents of the central and western regions to be transferred here to help you. They will all listen to orders, and he also ordered that we send them sufficient equipment and supplies. By doubling the numbers of your soldiers 3 times, His Excellency believes that he can feel safe on this front. Can we rely on you? Of course, that's great. You should remember to thank His Excellency for us, and Orzon quickly stepped forward in joy. But Jabba's voice interrupted him. Wait, you said this front? Does he want to secure this front? Is Master, no, His Excellency Robin Burton, is joining the war? Of course His Excellency will enter the war on behalf of planet Nahari. How can His Excellency allow a planet he set foot on to be defiled? The Shadow Sword raised his head proudly. The eastern region will be entirely your responsibility, and do not worry about what is happening anywhere else. The important thing is that you do not let the invaders take a single stone from you. That will be all. The Shadow Sword disappeared again, leaving 3 mouths open. Well, this was unexpected, but it's great. Haha, we have His Excellency's support. The Correspondence Elder patted Orzon on the shoulder happily. Orzon laughed. Phew, I was worried about the plan to retreat here and let them do what they want with the rest of the planet, but as long as His Excellency said that he would take care of them, there is no need to fear anything anymore. If this news spreads in the eastern region, celebrations will be held for a whole month. Haha, Sect Master, what do you think about the Sect Master? The sound of Jabba squeezing his fists sent shivers down the Elder's back. Then they heard him talking to himself. He will intervene in the war then, and knowing that man, this was certainly not a spur-of-the-moment decision. He had planned this for decades. Ooh, this is why he deployed the Shadow Swords all these years then, to prepare the playground for him before he make his move. Why didn't he say anything when I asked him to intervene in the war? Then I broke the master-disciple relationship between us for nothing. Why didn't he take a minute to explain to me what he intends to do? Is it so easy to abandon me? He has not even bothered to send one of his sons to explain our role in the war. He sent a random Shadow Sword. A random Shadow Sword? Boom. 10 days later, the central region, the only city currently inhabited. The eastern region is the biggest and only obstacle in my view. Just pretend like you don't see the rest of the map for now. We must eliminate the resistance there first, then the planet will be ours. General Sully pointed towards a floating map. This map was obtained by Seagal by chance in some palace of a ruler of one of the cities he destroyed. Did you forget what I said about the northern region? Or are you just playing dumb? Seagal intervened angrily and began addressing the rest of the generals. According to our information, the northern region is home to a number of martial emperors. Exactly, they should be ranging from 300 to 500 martial emperors, and a large number of them are intermediate martial emperors. Although the information says that they are not unified and are divided into 12 tribes, the number of martial emperors is almost as many as our current number on the planet, and although the number of their soldiers is unknown, they are certainly not few either, since they have all those martial emperors. If we wanted to talk about the biggest obstacle, it would definitely be the northern region. So are we ignoring a master law user, a damn truth chosen, for the sake of a handful of scattered tribes? Sully shouted at him. Look how the entire central region was evacuated and they all went to take shelter with the fourth truth chosen. That place was already impregnable, and it's even worse now. If we let a master law user free, disasters will strike. What's so difficult in what I'm saying? What would happen then if we attacked the east with all our might and found the north surrounding us from behind? Logic says that we get rid of the strongest first. Seagal did not retreat either. The words he extracted from the prisoners in the first few months of his arrival made him look to the north with constant caution. Rather, he thought several times about retreating himself and going to bring at least 8 fleets. The rest of the generals kept watching the map for a while. Finally, one of them spoke up. How many energy pearls have we collected so far from the central region? Sigil controlled his anger a little and replied, We collected more than 1,000 energy pearls, and the number is still growing. Since information came that the inhabitants of the central region had disappeared, the army consisting of 5 fleets spread throughout the entire central region to kill everyone who was late in evacuating and to secure the borders so that no one would return to the central region. This piece of land, equal to the size of their mother planet, became their entire property, and without shedding a drop of their blood. Another general furrowed his eyebrows when he heard the number. We collected 1,000 energy pearls in just 10 days. We have to call in backup. This place is just too precious to take it slightly. I agree with you, but not now. Another general nodded and then pointed towards the south and west. But we still have unfinished business. When support comes, what will we tell them about these 5 fleets, and we were afraid to move against them without support? Let's occupy them first, then we look to the east and north. Who is with me? I'm with you. Me, but I'm not going to the west. General of them sent a quick glance at Sully before he continued. Until now we don't know what happened to half of the 14th Fleet. Even the 2 reconnaissance ships that went to fetch half the fleet have not been heard from again. So let's leave west aside for the time being and just send them more surveyors. General Pars ignored Sully, who was clenching his jaws, and nodded. Very well. The 5 of us will attack the southern region as soon as we finish the preparations. The afflicted city of Jura. Besides the imperial capital, which is located on the central continent, this place is undoubtedly the most guarded. Hundreds, if not thousands, of visitors come every day from 3 different planets, but only a few manage to enter it. After the cleansing operation led by Billy, the city is no longer as chaotic as before. It is still chilling to enter, yes, but at least it is more organized. Currently, every few steps you find a shrine with no name. Any random shrine among them may contain an entire corpse, perhaps a few body parts, or maybe just a toy covered in blood. Currently, there are only 2 individuals inside the city. One of them is sitting in front of 2 ordinary-looking shrines with no expression on his face, and the other is standing behind him with his hands behind his back. They were Richard and Caesar. Richard finally broke the deafening silence. My father's relationship with the women of the family is ridiculous. Don't you think? How is that? Caesar smiled. This was the first time he heard his voice in a few hours. Simple if you think about it. Look here. Richard pointed toward the oldest-looking shrine. I heard that my grandmother died alone and in complete silence. Until her death, they blamed her for her son running away. Then he pointed towards his mother's grave. And of course, I don't need to talk about what happened to my mother, who ended up having a few of her clothes and accessories buried because she didn't leave behind a single drop of blood. After a few seconds, Richard snapped his 2 fingers. Come to think of it, my father has a blood sister, right? I have an aunt and I have never seen her in my life, even though she has never done anything wrong. I heard when I was young that she got married to a random guy and completely disappeared after her brother John was executed on charges of conspiring with the Kingdom of Doliver to kill you. How sad is this? While her brother is the emperor of several planets, her life or death is unknown. Your father didn't— I know, Richard interrupted his brother before he continued. He didn't decide the fates of the 3 women, but if you notice the fate of each one of them is closely linked to him, I find it ironic, that's all. Caesar raised his eyebrows slightly, thinking about it. Even the girl Rita, who his adoptive father spent most of his time with, was then killed by a careless customer. Is that person cursed with women or something? Richard sighed one last time, then stood up and smiled at Caesar. You took me to almost every spot on the ancestral continent over the past few days before you brought me here. I think that's enough. Take me to that imperial capital, maybe I'll find faces I know there. Caesar stepped forward and wrapped her hand around Caesar's neck. Haha. You've already followed? Where's the youth's enthusiasm? First, I'll show you the continents of the 4 elements, then we'll go to planet Greenland, and then— But he stopped talking suddenly, his eyebrows furrowing slightly. Richard waited a few seconds until Caesar's features calmed down a little, then asked, What? Did you get an important message? Caesar removed his hand from Richard and rubbed his chin. Yes. There is a report that the 5 fleets are preparing to attack the southern region today. That is roughly 450 martial emperors and about 600,000 law-user soldiers, not counting the power of the ships themselves, of course. It will be a great battle. Why are you still here then? Aren't you the supreme general? Go and help your father. Richard pushed his brother a few times. Ugh, you little smug. Do you want to get rid of me that fast? Caesar didn't stop there and grabbed Richard's head and started rubbing it. I'm still not wanted there. The headquarters are just letting me know what's going on. The Empire's true army won't interfere yet. Huh? But why? Wasn't the plan to wait for the invasion army and surround them in the middle, then attack them from all sides? Everything was going according to plan. Why haven't you attacked them yet? Richard asked quickly. Then he was surprised himself. Why was he interested in the first place? Your question is the hottest topic of discussion in the High Command currently. Just a few days ago, Alexander and Theo argued with your father about this. Half of the generals prefer to attack and get rid of them now, but your father still prefers to halt the plan and wait some more. Caesar waved with both hands annoyingly. It was clear that he was among the people who supported launching the attack now, and all this hesitation is related to one piece of information that we extracted from the prisoners, which is that the Great Serpent Empire has 30 fleets. 30 fleets. If each one of them carries 100 martial emperors, then— Richard's eyes widened. Caesar snapped his finger and pointed at Richard. This means that we are facing at least 3,000 martial emperors, right? This is exactly why we are trying to urge your father to attack now and eliminate the 5 fleets in order to reduce the number of potential enemies. See, for example, what the demons did to that half of the fleet that landed there. They swallowed up those bastards in minutes to the point that they did not have time to scream. Because of this, after we were facing 510 martial emperors, now we are now facing only 460 of them. Why don't we just do the same and reduce the number of our enemies by taking down the 5 fleets? Richard looked at the ground and began to mutter. But eliminating this huge army will drain us of a lot of resources and lives as well, and this action will alert the Great Serpent Empire of the real danger in Nahari, and create a hidden hatred between us and them by destroying all those ships and soldiers, and next time they may send 20 fleets at once or more. As far as I know, we do not have enough strength to deal with an army of this magnitude, especially after we exhaust ourselves fighting the 5 fleets. Then he continued without stopping, this is the same mistake that I made when I increased the kidnappings in the Azul tribe, which made the rest of the tribes move against me. Had my father not intervened and made the settlements come out and force the rest of the giant tribes to retreat, I would have been besieged and dead by now. The difference is that I was able to act rashly because I knew I had a strong support behind me, but in a situation like this we have to think more logically before acting and what? Richard stopped after noticing Caesar's look at him, raising his eyebrows, opening his mouth, and tilting his head back slightly. Caesar shook his head. That's what your father said, word for word. Listen, if you don't want to tell me, forget it. Richard waved with apparent annoyance. Haha, who said I don't want to tell you? Your father actually said the same words. He said that if we defeat the 5 fleets and only cause some damage to them, they will return with support, and if we completely annihilate them, the Great Serpent Empire will come for revenge. He has been facing a big dilemma since hearing about the size of the enemy's forces. Caesar then nodded and looked towards the horizon. What I know is that he said that the goal of the war was not to destroy the enemy fleets, but to completely defeat the Great Serpent Empire so that they would never think of returning again. Or at least cause so much damage that it would take several centuries to recover before they think about coming back. And the solution, in his opinion, is... Richard furrowed his eyebrows, knowing how difficult such a decision would be if he were to be in the same position. The solution he has come up with so far, which we strongly oppose, is to continue with the blockade plan, but instead of approaching and destroying them in the central region, he wants us to close all paths to them but not cause them any serious damage until they are sure that the presence of only 5 fleets will not do them any good. Then they will ask for support. According to his words, their request for support in this way and without being affected by any losses will make the coming support range from 3-5 other fleets. He said that if we eliminate 10 fleets, it will be a very painful blow that will make them forget about us for a long time, or lose hope immediately. My father thought about all that. He wants to calm down the game so he can draw more of them. Richard looked down, knowing that he wouldn't have thought of such a plan if he were in his place, then asked again, why are you opposing it then? I don't see a problem with it. Do you have better solutions? It is not that we have any plan. All we have is one question. What if the next support was 10 or 15 fleets and not just 5 as he expected? Caesar shrugged his shoulders. According to our information, the enemies have 2 fleets permanently present on their mother planet and 1 fleet on the rest of the 4 planets that they have completely controlled. That's 6 fleets in total just sitting there for protection. And of course there are 5 here now. This leaves 19 fleets spread across 4 other planets where they are currently at war. Then he turned to Richard. How many of those 19 fleets will come? Richard? Or we can say how many of the 25 fleets if we include the defense fleets in the equation. I know that they need large forces back to suppression and oppression. With a simple calculation, it can really be said that they will definitely send 5 fleets at a maximum, but do we really know their conditions there? In the end, we will not put our hands on anyone with real authority. With some luck and the advantage of territory, we can deal with 10 fleets at once. If the number of enemies reaches 15 fleets, the result is unknown. And if we win, it will be through sacrifices, too many of them. Your father wants to bet that the enemy is smart and will follow common sense. What if they are hooligans like me and send large numbers of fleets at once? The entire high command says that your father is taking a lot of risks. What do you think? Caesar shook his head. This is the topic that occupied the minds and mouths of the high command during the past period. Richard paused, and then a strange smile appeared on his face. A smile that Caesar did not know was sadness, reassurance, or pride, as if it was a mixture of all of them. So he did not restrain himself except to ask, "What is wrong with this face of yours?" "Hee. It's nothing. Just something suddenly came to mind." Richard waved and shook his head. "My father built an empire in a few decades, an empire that can defend against 1,500 martial emperors and 2 million law-using soldiers. Could you please take a moment to comprehend these numbers? We didn't have a single martial emperor in the ancestral continent. The king of the Black Sun Kingdom himself was a level 33 sage. Without realizing it, that man achieved something that no sane person would dare to dream about. And you're asking me about my opinion of his plan? Haha, man, just let him do what he sees appropriate." Caesar's serious facial expressions relaxed a little. "I am glad that this has become your view of your father. I never doubted that he was a great man. It's just that this greatness has side effects that destroy the lives of many." "Forget it." Richard stopped laughing and scratched his head in embarrassment, then tapped Caesar on the shoulder. "Come on, let's continue our tour and tell me about those forces present in the southern region on the way. Planet Nahari, the border between the central and southern regions. We are about to enter the southern region. There may or may not be resistance, but we must be at our best anyway. Is everyone ready?" General Deeritt spoke in a low voice. He was in the cockpit of the mothership of his fleet, in a completely quiet environment, surrounded by a number of communications devices and a crew of 4 very beautiful girls. However, he still seemed extremely nervous. My fleet is ready for engagement. One of the communication devices around him lit up for a moment, and General Pars's voice came from it. So do I. The southern region will be ours today. Leave the left front to my fleet and forget about it. The quick and reassuring responses made General Deeritt take a deep breath, but a new voice appeared that disturbed his mood again. You will pay for this. I swear. You will pay for this. It was General Sully's voice. General Deeritt showed an annoyed expression. I thought we had resolved this dispute, Mr. Sully. If you don't like the lineup, that's fine. Please return to the safe zone and we will take care of the rest. You bastards. I will not forgive you. Just wait until the rest of my fleet returns. Sully's voice did not seem to calm down at all, but rather became more agitated. Before setting off, the other 4 generals agreed that their fleets would take the shape of an inverted crescent, with the 2 heads of the crescent facing the southern region. In this way, the 2 fleets on the flanks would fight, and the 2 fleets in the rear would function as continuous support. They could also use this formation as a siege trap if the enemy tried to advance too far. In addition, the 2 fleets in the back will serve as a headquarters to monitor the situation and plan the battle without interference. It is a basic formation of the Great Serpent Empire. The problem with General Sully is that he wanted to be in the middle of the crescent and act like a commander since he is the oldest among them in terms of rank and his fleet is the strongest, but he was surprised that he was placed in the front, exactly between the 2 pointed points of the crescent. This undoubtedly makes him the spearhead in any battle. It can be exaggerated and said that he is being used as a scapegoat. The problem is that when he objected, the 4 generals rejected his presence and told him to stay behind to guard the safe area. But what would he say to the high command later if he skipped the battles in the south and stayed behind playing? Ha ha! Brother Sully. You are in the best place to achieve the most achievements. Congratulations! A voice came from one of the transmitters and he burst out laughing. Ha ha! Look at the horizon, gentlemen. Wasn't the sky blue all the way? Why was it brown? Is this something specific to the southern region? No, look carefully. There is a blue color faintly appearing from the edges of that brown horizon. Vanguard team leader Seagal narrowed his eyes slightly and muttered. That this is not the horizon. This looks like a tree? What do you mean by a tree? How can a living being reach this size? It is most likely a mountain. Or are you so accustomed to failing to evaluate that you are now deliberately making mistakes? Mr. Leader of Elite Vanguard Number 7? Sully's voice wavered in sarcasm. I don't know, I might be wrong. General Seagal's voice was heard again, and then a slight chuckle appeared in his voice. But what do you think, Half-Fleet General? Don't you think the sky is strange here? I will kill you. All right, that's enough. Did you forget what Seagal said so quickly? The third truth chosen informed the entire planet that we were coming, and that's why the eastern region was united against us. Get ready. We may meet more enemies any minute now. General Molad spoke seriously. In fact, it was difficult to distinguish who was speaking from the 4 generals, Pars, Deeritt, Molad, and Jake. They all speak seriously and cautiously, and they even think in almost the same way, and not only them. Even among the elite soldiers, there was rarely a prominent person among them. This is because, from childhood, they are subjected to harsh and standardized training that makes them copies of each other in terms of physicality and combat techniques, and then they take development classes that make them slowly lose their personalities and think only like soldiers. Only a few individuals can be found a little bit different, like General Sully, who remained in his high position for a long time and whose mind was corrupt by his authority and wealth, or Seagal, the leader of the small free squad. Caution is good and all, but frankly the chance of finding any resistance here is completely non-existent. Seagal shook his head. Since we came we have been hearing about the eastern and northern regions. The rest of the regions are potatoes waiting to be bitten. There is basically no one here to stop us. I fear that we came with a cleaver to slaughter a chick. I agree with you, but When General Deeritt was about to express his opinion, he was interrupted by a strong voice that shook the 5 fleets. Halt! All the soldiers inside the dozens of space warships put their hands on their ears, and some of them put a hand on their hearts. The sound came out accompanied by intense heat as if it was coming from hell. The thick clouds in the sky began to wrap around themselves, forming a giant fiery vortex in a horrifying sight. PSSTKK, the gate of the 14th Fleet's mothership opened and Sully rushed straight through. What son of a bitch is bragging in front of me? Get out now. He forgot that just before he was complaining about being in the face of the cannon. His instinct as a warrior made him prepare to fight at the slightest provocation. At the last moment, he saw a shadow descending in front of him from among the clouds. The shadow was nearly as tall as General Sully himself. But this shadow had a slender body that was plump in certain places. It was a woman. That woman had two thick horns sticking out from above ears full of earrings. However, she did not look like a monster. Rather, her face appeared to be carved from the finest materials, and her long, fiery red hair touched her buttocks. Her clothes were not too revealing, but many parts of her slender body were visible to the eye, and every inch of her skin was covered in stunning natural tattoos, and most importantly, her aura was equal to that of a middle-level martial emperor. That woman opened her mouth and announced in a strong voice, "I am Flora, the daughter of the Red Flame Dragon Tribe's tribe chief. This region is under my protection. Go back to where you came from. If Sakaar or even Raiden were here, they would immediately know that she was trying to imitate Aru's dominant style. All of you." Sully clenched his fist. It was clear from his features that he was seething with anger. Why would every son of a bitch who just entered the middle levels of the Emperor's domain dare to jump in front of me here? Then he pulled his halberd from behind his back and jumped towards Flora. A thick fireball descended from the vortex of flame directly at Sully's head, and Flora's voice was heard again. "I heard that getting close to you is dangerous, and even if I don't believe that you can defeat me, the descendant of the Red Flame Dragon, in a battle of strength, but that's okay. I will follow. Instructions, let me grill you today." "General!" 5 emperors rushed out of the mothership behind their general, and then dozens of emperors of the 14th Fleet emerged from their ships one after the other. In the blink of an eye, dozens of emperors of the 14th Fleet were floating in front of Flora, fully unleashing their auras in a majestic scene. "Back off. I will eliminate that bitch myself." General Sully once again balanced in mid-air and shouted at his followers. Although he was not harmed by that attack, his fingertips were shaking slightly. The accuracy, purity, and power of this attack should not come from a level 45 emperor. For a moment, he felt like he was fighting a rival, not someone 2 full levels weaker than him. Flora was already one of the 2 greatest geniuses that the Orphan Blood Planet has ever seen. Her familiarity with the fire path, her pure blood lineage, and her solid body gave her the right to obtain this title, and now on top of all of this, she has been added to the perfect heavenly fire law technique, pure energy pearls, and her personal instant arrays, such as the one that she used it to make the fire vortex. As for Flora, her eyelids did not blink, but she raised her head and looked sadly at Sully and his soldiers. 1, 2, 50 martial emperors? Humph, just an appetizer. Then he snapped his finger. Several space vortexes opened up behind him. Rabin, Cadmir, Bosana, and dozens of orphan blood emperors appeared one after another until the total number reached 50, after which the vortexes were closed again. General Sully and his men opened their eyes to the last. Even Seagal jumped inside his ship. Those people in front of them were not from any of the races they had fought previously. Some of them had horns, some had falcon wings, and some had some damn gills. These were not just races, they were demi-humans. Real demi-humans. Not artificial ones like them. Boom. Without signals, the orphan blood emperors immediately began attacking. Those who had wings pulled their opponents into a battle of speed. Those who had 4 legs used their laws to pull their enemies down, while those who had gills and fins attacked their enemies until they pulled them toward the nearest pond. The situation turned into chaos in an instant, and the expected orderly battle did not happen. That's bad. General Pars stood up and took a few steps toward the ship's window. Demi-humans are the worst opponents you can meet. They themselves are considered demi-humans and know what it means to get this upgrade and get rid of the human limits, and now they have to deal with demi-humans of all shapes and types. Seagal, what does this mean? General Deeritt looked at his relative with his eyebrows furrowed. You said at the beginning that there are about 30 original races on this planet, and we believed you. Now there are more than 40 different demi-humans in front of us. Do you still dare to assert that this world is not part of a larger entity? No, I can't confirm anything. Do what you see fit. Seagal almost shouted that he was sure that he had collected all the information possible and that this world was really nothing more than a planet in a young belt. But he remained silent. This number of races on one planet is not normal at all. Give him some rest, Dirrit. Look at how huge this planet is. Even our mother planet can't reach 20% of the Nahari when it comes to size. Maybe the demi-humans are only crammed into the southern region. General Molad's voice came from the transmitter. The important thing is, what do we do now? Will we just stay behind and watch? Oh, there will be no watching today, brother. Look down. The thin fog that was covering the ground could no longer hide what was happening below. When General Pars looked out his window to see what was happening, he found the beginning of a huge infantry army crawling under the ships, but he could not see the end of it. What the hell? General Pars cursed loudly as he carefully examined the army below them. What's going on? The rest of the three generals came forward to see what was happening as well. At first, they furrowed their brows a little, thinking about the next move. But in an instant, their focus turned to shock. What is it? What's going on down there? Bandel took 2 steps behind his commander and whispered in his ear. Why are they shocked? Were they not prepared to face large numbers? Come see for yourself, Seagal muttered, a few drops of sweat beginning to trickle down his forehead. Bandel moved closer to look out the window. It took him much more time than the generals, but in the end, he opened his eyes to the last of them like the rest. There were 2 problems with what he saw. The first is that the army below them ranged in number from 1 million to roughly 2 million, and it seemed that all of them were armed with engraved weapons, and all of them used the laws. Why does a random planet with no ruler and no backup from an overlord have so many law users? And who organized them into the standard army, even though they are from different races? Speaking of races, this is the second and greatest problem. The army below is all humans, astral, dwarves. They are the same races that they fought in the eastern and central regions. Where is the army of the demi-humans? How is it possible that not one of the infantry soldiers is a demi-human? Do the demi-human scoundrels give birth directly to martial emperors? Or is there another, larger army? What do we do now? General Molad's voice was heard across all the ships. He didn't seem disturbed, but he wasn't confident either. What to do about what? Do we have a solution? We have to eliminate them, General Dirrit announced angrily. But General Jake's voice was the most hesitant among them. You know what this battle will do to our ground forces, right? Damn the ground forces, we will not retreat again. We are the army of the Great Snake Empire, for God's sakes. General Pars shouted and grabbed one of the internal transmitters. All units, evacuate the ships immediately and engage the enemies. Follow the Body Island plan. The gates of dozens of space warships opened simultaneously and thousands of soldiers jumped out one after another. Cannons also began to appear, one after another, pointing downwards. General Jake sighed, then gave the same orders, and then General Mulad followed suit. The 14th Fleet's withdrawal from the eastern region was shameful enough. They could escape the accusation of fear of the 4th Truth Chosen and justify not returning there and taking revenge by saying that they were planning to invade the southern region, but if they retreated here as well, it would ruin their political and military forever. The nearly 120 space warships dropped off the refurbished soldiers at once, as if it were raining. These soldiers landed directly in the middle of the hordes of the local army. The first handful of them were killed immediately. Then they took control of small circles that became their outposts. Then those outposts began to expand in the middle of the sea of the local army, as if they were small islands. Even if most of them were Mariel Knights using only the first grade of the heavenly laws, the presence of millions of them using laws at the same time made heaven and earth turmoil. This time, the warships took their time aiming and hunting down the saints and sages of the local army on the ground. There was no swarm of Draco-winged beasts to disturb them. This caused quite a few losses at first, but this gap in air power was closed a little after a number of sages appeared among the locals. Their mission is to attack ships from below and intercept cannon shots before they reach the ground. They appeared to be using a number of black flags to support their attacks as well. The numerical difference is still too great. Bandal clenched his fists tightly. Sending more than 500,000 soldiers of the Great Serpent Empire to a battle is supposed to decide the outcome before it even begins. They are the standing army of a planetary empire that has ruled for more than 10,000 years. After all, their main army is considered a terrifying entity for the young planetary belt. But, although they were achieving small victories at the bottom, their numbers were steadily decreasing as well. The numerical difference made this battle equal. They are nothing, we will burn them all like the locusts they are. General Pars spoke arrogantly and gave a signal before he himself left the ship. Then 100 individuals flew out from the fleet's ships and stood in a row behind their general. It was clear that they were ready to launch a massive attack on the local army to blow up as many of them as possible. Virum. In front of the 100 martial emperors of the 27th Fleet, 100 space vortexes appeared and 100 individuals emerged from it. All of them remained floating in the air. These martial emperors are all humans? Like pure humans? General Pars felt his eyes about to fall open. What the hell is going on here? Why are there so many human emperors? Why are there any human emperors at all? They heard from Sully about him seeing human martial emperors in the eastern region, but they took the matter with ridicule, thinking that he was still trying to make up stories to direct their attention away from his defeat, but seeing 100 of them now. The person in the middle of them came forward, a dark-skinned human with a white beard and mustache. Fogan rubbed his pointed mustache and laughed. Didn't Sister Flora tell you that this area is protected? Go back to where you came from while you still can. You! General Pars almost erupted, but instead, he calmed down and took a moment and ran his eyes over all of the 100 human emperors before a smile appeared on his face. You are all low-level emperors. What makes you think you can stop me? Then he completely unleashed the aura of a high-leveled emperor. Oh, you? Who said we're here to stop you? We know we can't. A slightly fat, bearded human laughed. Charvier, the former chief of the Grazing Rats tribe, and currently the king of the Grazing Rats kingdom. If you know that you have no weight in front of me, then there is no need for battle. Pars lowered his aura and raised his head. Choose 4 of you and come to my ship. Let's discuss the terms of your surrender. He knew that even if he won today, there would be some losses. Haha, what Brother Charvier meant is that we are not responsible for stopping you, but we know someone who can. Hadyar, first king of the Night Bird Kingdom, laughed loudly and then pointed upward. Pars got angry and was about to attack directly, when something strange happened that caught his attention. The fiery storm that blocked out the suns was split in half by something huge. A mountain? The general shouted, if that mountain keeps falling, everything in the area will undoubtedly turn into scraps and meat paste. Ah! Look up! Even the battle of the emperors between the 14th Fleet and Orphan's Blood Emperor stopped for a moment under this glorious yet horrifying scene. Seagal felt a strange weakness in his legs as he looked up like everyone, and then he found himself muttering in a voice that only he could hear. This is not a mountain. This is a tree branch. I told you. Stop the incoming danger. Destroy that thing before it lands. General Pars shouted without thinking. He was still not convinced that there was a damn tree of this size, but she had to survive this attack first so that he would know what to deal with. The huge branch descended like a falling piece of the sky itself, huge enough to completely cover the 27th Fleet with all its ships, soldiers, and martial emperors. Hiya! The 27th Fleet martial emperors raised their arms, all of them launching their final attacks and using their defensive weapons, but that branch was much tougher than they thought. Boom! The 3 highest ships in the fleet took the brunt of the attack and fell to the ground like meteorites. The rest of the ships also sustained some damage. Damn it! General Pars's originally pale color turned light blue. He raised his hands up and tried to push the branch up again with all his strength. Due to the intense pressure placed on him, his manes began to appear clearly. Even his martial emperors were not better off. Had they not united to stop this branch in time, the losses and damage would not have stopped at 3 ships and a few broken bones. Haha, we're here. Have you forgotten? Charvier laughed, then raised a small hammer and saluted the head of his closest martial emperor. Damn it! General Pars's originally pale color turned light blue. He raised his hands up and tried to push the branch up again with all his strength. Due to the intense pressure placed on him, his manes began to appear clearly. Even his martial emperors were not better off. Had they not united to stop this branch in time, the losses and damage would not have stopped at 3 ships and a few broken bones. Haha, we're here. Have you forgotten? Charvier laughed, then raised a small hammer and saluted the head of his closest martial emperor. Ha! The rest of Greenland's martial emperors did not back down either. They all chose an opponent and attacked immediately. In the blink of an eye, another battle of emperors began. Only General Pars remained alone, raising the huge tree branch above his head. You're messing with the wrong person. You're messing with the wrong person. The apparent veins along the general's body began to twitch and change color to violet. His heavy aura as a respected general began to take on a dark and grim tone as well. All his emperors were busy fighting away while all the soldiers on the ground were blown away like grains of dust by the wind from the attack of the tree branch, so there was no one around him. If anyone was there and felt this aura, he would suffocate and run away immediately. Shri, the violet color in the general's veins began to extend towards the branch of the tree above, and at every point it reached this violet substance quickly blackened it and turned into something resembling ash. I will kill you. I will kill you all. General Pars muttered angrily, still holding the branch with both hands as if he were an ant carrying the whole world. But he was not panicking or even afraid. After activating the blood sacrifice and using Durger the Devourer's ability, this mountain or branch or whatever it was would disappear sooner or later. Humph! With an expression filled with arrogance and madness, General Pars tried to throw the dead branch aside so that he could participate in the battle with the rest of the emperors and crush those locals. What the hell is happening? The pressure above his head was removed, but it was not because the branch had completely turned to ash as he thought, but rather strange changes had begun to occur. The part that was infected broke off from the branch and fell on its own, while the rest of the massive branch was lifted up on its own and began to compress itself. The bark, which was already thick, seemed to have become like divine steel when it was compressed to this degree. And not just that branch. The brown shadow that was forming the horizon began to diminish and formed what looked like a humanoid body, while the branches and leaves that turned the sky red began to merge and form the arms and the head. Then the ground began to quake and crack, and the giant roots came out and began to compress and merges until it formed 2 feet. All the battlefield stopped and everyone just looked up at something that seemed to have come out of a dream. That thing was no less than 100 meters high. It had a basic human-like structure in that it only had 2 hands and 2 feet, but its harsh facial expressions and the thorns protruding from everywhere on its body gave it the impression that it was something that came straight from hell. A Treyant? There are Treyant creatures here. General Pars took a few steps back in the air. The Treyants were one of the things they had been warned not to mess with by the spirit of Planet Poison Rock. From what they heard, the Treyants are rare plant-like creatures that are very powerful, but they don't like to get into trouble. All they have to do as soldiers of the Empire is to don't provoke them. But it seems like it's too late for some reason. This didn't look like an ordinary Treyant creature either. That Trent's aura was at least level 48, and its physical strength didn't even need to be talked about. That thing could put a fight against the entire 27th Fleet. The giant remained standing there, motionless and without saying a word, just staring at General Pars silently. All the soldiers and martial emperors from both sides took their time to absorb what they were seeing. The first to sigh and return to fighting were the new emperors of planet Greenland, who took advantage of the opportunity to direct attacks at their opponents. As for the rest of the Great Serpent Empire, the Orphan Blood, or even the Nahari soldiers, it took a longer period of time to get used to the presence of the silent giant before they returned to their battles once more. Only one person remained in his place. General Pars himself. He tried more than once to gather his energy to give himself an impetus to return to the ship, but he noticed the giant Treyant getting ready to move as well. When he raised his hand slightly to test the situation, he noticed the giant Trent's eyes on his hand, watching it closely. Even when he opened his mouth to shout at the mother ship to prepare the planetary massacre cannon, he felt the giant's hand move forward slightly. That thing was waiting for any movement to attack. Attack? Can he even fight that thing one-on-one? Afraid of provoking the giant Traiant, General Pars only sent a glance towards the heart of the crescent formation as if pleading for help. Inside the 28th Fleet mothership, a few drops of sweat escaped from General Dirrett's head and found their way to the ground. Seagal swallowed hard and took his eyes off the giant Traiant with difficulty. It's not as bad as it seems, right? If all the ships fire their cannons at it, maybe we will. Without saying anything, General Dirrett pointed towards the horizon, or more precisely, towards two different horizons ahead of them. They were both just like the one that transformed into the giant Traiant, and both were still standing there quietly as if nothing had happened. Then Seagal understood why his relative was sweating like this and took a few steps back. That there are two more. A few months ago, Robin walked alone towards what seemed like the wall that surrounded the world and looked up. Dark brown trunk, too dark that's almost black, extending beyond the horizon. Dark red leaves in the shape of skulls covering the sky, and many ropes falling from the top of the tree like those that monkeys hang on to. The difference is that each one of those ropes can be used to measure the dimensions of some small kingdoms, and that oppressive, ugly aura. Even Robin himself felt strangely short of breath as he stood at the foot of that tree. Robin smiled as he looked up. Tavina, are you going to keep me waiting for long? The clay on the ground began to move and take shape until it finally materialized into the form of Traiant, roughly as tall as Robin. Robin Burton, I see. No, I should now say His Excellency Robin Burton. Robin's smile increased. I was happy when they told me that Tree Father Tavina, the strongest among the seven, decided to surrender. You made a good choice. I would have felt some remorse if your body had turned into a treasure mine as happened with the rest of your friends. Father Tree Tavina felt mockery in Robin's words, but he did not respond and contented himself with staring into the eyes of the person who subdued him without seeing him once. He prepared many plans and schemes. He prepared to burn all his refinement, and he was ready to do anything for Robin and his army of invaders to fall. But in the end, that damn space portal spewed out a large number of foreign martial emperors who came rushing and eager to destroy everything they saw. Tribe after tribe, tree father after tree father, all fell one after another under the power of the orphan blood emperors and the warlords. Tavina, the creature who lived for almost 2 million years, the monster who continued to fight against the other ancient Traiants and the human tribes all his life, and in the end, he and the planet were subjugated within a few years, during a period not even long enough for the nap he used to take. After the fall of all the human tribes in the Alliance and their incorporation into what is now known as the Four Kingdoms, and after the elimination of 4 Tree Fathers and the surrender of 2, Tavina continued to resist alone for more than a month. But the inevitable end was getting closer every day. In the end, he decided that the life that he protected for 2 million years was more important than his pride, so he surrendered in the middle of the last battle. His immense power tempted Caesar and allowed him to surrender, but he made him swear the toughest soul oath that could be made. He did not become a general like Tree Father Descartes, or even an enemy who knew when to surrender like Tree Father Snoist, who kept part of his treasures. Tavina's soul oath made him a slave to Caesar, and without receiving any promises or any benefits, as all his treasures were taken and he was forced to give up his refinement percentage. All he received was a promise to keep him alive as one of General Descartes' followers. When Robin saw that he was not going to respond, he took out a metal plate and threw it towards the avatar lightly. This is for you. I expect you will be working on it within the next 2 months. There is no need to rush though, take your time. Tavina's avatar picked up the tablet and inserted his soul sense directly into it. Is this even possible? He only looked again at Robin's face, this time with a look filled with amazement. This small tablet contains information that could fill several volumes, but to make it short, it has a method for the Tree Father to compress his energy gathering center and his soul domain into a smaller size and bring them closer to each other. What good would it do him if he did something like this? If he could create an avatar that contained both a soul domain and an energy gathering center? Wouldn't this be his complete body? What more would he want? His true body as a tree would be just a husk he left behind. Awesome, huh? Have you ever thought about it? I spent a long time with Evergreen thinking about a solution. Your return to Earth made your real bodies one with the planet and inseparable. In the end, the idea of this technique, or you may say this trick, it can make you leave the Earth and move again, but it still has some problems, like you have to reattach yourself to your original body every once in a while to recharge your lifeline. Or as you will still feel that you belong to the earth and try to create a huge tree body for yourself wherever you go. These kind of problems, and a few others will be left to you and your two brothers, though I won't spend any more of my time on this matter. Tavina's avatar got down on both knees and muttered unconsciously. You call these problems? You call these problems? I can move again? Tree Father Tavina's soul domain was extremely unstable right now. Descartes had previously told them about Robin's promise, but no one believed him, nor did he expect to receive something like this after he surrendered humiliatingly in the middle of the battle. He is technically a slave now. It would be a waste for a good soldier like you to remain tied to the ground while I fight on other planets. Get up and follow me. I will wait to hear from you. Robin smiled, and of course you don't mind if we cut a few branches from your real body every now and then, right? Tavina looked up into Robin's eyes for a few moments, then straightened up to get down on one knee. You'll only hear what pleases you. Meanwhile, the great line between the southern region and the central region. General Pars moved his finger, and Father Tree Tavina moved his hand forward slightly. Tavina remained focused on General Pars, as if he were a beast waiting to attack a rat pit. If it were not for the strict instructions he received to avoid doing any major damage, he would have crushed him like a cockroach by now. What the hell do you want? Are we going to fight or not? General Pars lost his patience and pulled out his weapon. Brrrsh, the fingers of Father Tree's right hand quickly extended and turned into 5 long lashes. Then with the strong voice of the giant tree ant was heard, stand still. Or die. KH. Without realizing it, General Pars had already taken a few steps back. The aura of that thing gave him strong indications of danger. He truly felt that if he approached, he might actually die. At the back, Seagal placed both hands above his head. What should we do? Brother Pars won't survive if the battle erupts with that thing. Should we go help him? General Dirrit almost broke his molars from the pressure, but he quickly calmed down and furrowed his eyebrows slightly, trying to analyze the situation. In the end, this is the reason that prompted the other 4 to choose him as the leader of this army. When Seagal saw his relative in a state of concentration, he left him and went back to looking out the window in horror. The chaos outside was deadly. The ground battle was not bad. Although the ratio was 3-1 in favor of the locals, the army of the Great Snake Empire was still standing and fighting fiercely. The battleground below them was still part of the Great Line, full of poisonous gases, swamps, and dangerous creatures, but the massive battle had erased all of this from existence. There were only bodies, both alive and dead, and underneath them was only scorched soil. A tie, of course, is not what should be expected from a battle against a group of locals, but it is not the worst outcome. What's really bad is what happens in the aerial battle. Boom. 150 emperors fighting at the same time, and the results of 150 separate battles did not look very promising. There were already several cases of serious injuries among the emperors of the Great Snake Empire. The difference here is that when a martial emperor from the locals is injured, a space vortex opens behind him and he disappears into it, and then another one comes out to continue the battle in his place. But when a martial emperor from the Great Serpent Empire is injured, he tries to only defend and retreat so that he has time to heal himself, and this only causes him to be injured more. If the situation continues like this. After a few minutes, Seagal finally heard General Dirrit's voice. We are fighting the unknown and we do not know how many there are. So far 150 emperors from the locals have appeared because we took out 150 emperors. They sent 1.5 million soldiers because they knew that they were enough to balance against our ground army. We are in complete darkness while they read us as the pages of a book. We must find the place they come from and destroy it. To find where they are coming from? What are you? Seagal narrowed his eyebrows and took 2 steps towards General Dirrit, trying to understand more. But his relative did not give him a chance. He interrupted him with a loud shout. Send this order to all the ships of the 5 fleets. Activate the space frequency radar. They must inform me immediately if they detect anything. Yes. The main chamber of the mother ship was full of soldiers working as a command and control crew, but they had been silent a while ago to give the general a chance to think. but now they all began to move like a beehive. This space frequency radar is one of the most important devices on the space warships when searching for new planets or moving between the planets of the Empire, and it is also one of the most important innovations that the Overlord brought to them when they built the first fleet. Outer space is full of cracks, heavy stars, black holes, and many other disasters that destroy the fabric of space itself. The benefit of these radars is that they inform the crew that there are changes in the fabric of space in the radar range, which would mean that something abnormal is happening next to them that is strong enough to disturb space, and therefore they try to escape in the other direction. The benefit of these radars is that they inform the crew that there are changes in the fabric of space in the radar range, which would mean that something abnormal is happening next to them that is strong enough to disturb space, and therefore they try to escape in the other direction. Space frequency radar? Right. Haha. Brother Dirrit, you're a genius. Seagal remembered something and quickly looked back at the window. Dozens of these space vortexes have appeared so far. It is impossible for each portal of them to have a different source. Certainly, there is a place that gathers the real army of the southern region, and from that place reinforcements are sent when needed. Whatever that place was, the opening of dozens of those vortexes near it would definitely cause strong space vibrations. General, there are 4 spots on the surface of the planet that produce high space emissions. The 4 spots are located in the eastern, northern, western, and southern regions. As for the ones in the southern region and the closest to us, it is in the southwest direction. We can reach them within a few minutes if we move quickly. The officer in charge of the space frequency radar stood up and quickly announced. Then the sounds of the transmitters began to pick up messages from the rest of the ships. They all said the same thing. That must be the locals' base in the southern region. Isn't that interesting? A strange smile appeared on Dirrit's face. General Molad, General Jake, prepare your fleet engines. Prepare to move at full speed. Boom. The battle on land raged from the moment the soldiers landed from the ships, even at a ratio of 1-3. The soldiers of the Great Serpent Empire fought valiantly and made some advances. Their combat methods were based almost entirely on the advanced equipment they possessed. Their weapons, such as swords and hammers, used runes of paths that had offensive tendencies, such as the path of the wind, fire, lightning, poison, etc., while the silver armor that covered their entire bodies used energy shields and shields from the paths of water, earth, plants, and other paths are characterized by defensive strength. Some of them even have miniature cannons carried by 4 soldiers that they use to open gaps in the formation of the local army. But that's not all. This wasn't what gave them the advantage on the ground despite the numerical superiority of their opponents, but rather what happens when they lose that equipment and are forced to use the laws themselves. A cloud of purple poison. That was the title of every victory won by the soldiers of the Great Serpent Empire down there. Whenever one of the Empire's soldiers receives a severe injury and is on the verge of death, or his armor is broken and he has no escape, or even when a high-ranking officer selects a few soldiers and gives them the order to empty a specific place, a purple cloud emerges from within them and destroys everything in front of them over a distance of tens of meters, turning it into dust, whatever that thing is, metals, flesh, or even laws. The local army noticed that whoever used this strange attack, his body would be filled with purple veins and would soon fall to the ground dead. But this information did not help them much. Even if it was some kind of suicide attack, there are about 500,000 people in front of them, and any one of them could use it at any time. The front rows of the local army were terrified after they saw the effect of those poisonous purple clouds more than once. And this is what made the battle turn in favor of the Imperial forces. Had it not been for the black-clothed individuals who were seen moving among the ranks of the local army rearranging their ranks repeatedly, the locals might have collapsed by now. The confrontation between the ship's cannons and the specialized air defense arrays was not in the best condition either. The number of ships was large and the number of cannons was larger. In this confrontation, a large number of ships were able to continue firing at the ground forces freely, causing great losses. As for the battles of the emperors, things are not in the best condition either, whether the humans or demi-human emperors are all between level 41 and 43, and as for their opponents, there are many of them who are middle-level emperors, some of whom are already level 46. The only thing keeping them from being annihilated so far are those indestructible black flags, and the fact that whenever one of them is defeated, A space vortex opens and another martial emperor emerges to fight in his place. General Sully was doing well against Flora as well, although he had not been able to deliver any fatal blows yet, but she was full of wounds. The fact that she had a feature in her armor that healed her very quickly by consuming energy pearls, and the fact that she was getting better with every passing minute bothered Sully a lot. But he is completely reassured that even after 100 years, this little girl will not be able to defeat him. In fact, the only front that wasn't in bad shape right now was the cold battle between General Pars and the giant Trent Tavina, each just watching the other. Vroom. At this moment, something started to happen that caught everyone's attention. The spaceships started making loud noises. Their engines also started to glow. What's going on? What are you doing in the back? General Pars was terrified and shouted loudly. Of course, he knew this scene meant that the ships were ready to leave. He just did not dare to move or take his eyes off the Treyant. Dear it! Where do you think you are going? Even Sully lost his common sense when he felt that he was about to be left behind. He pushed Flora away and then rushed towards his mothership, but a fire dragon hit him from behind and slowed him down again. Then Flora looked towards the horizon and shouted, "Please stop them." Even she didn't know why she shouted this. After all, their mission was to make the invaders retreat, but something in her heart told her that something was wrong. The two giant trees heard the call. Descartes and Snoist waved their heaviest branches toward the enemy ships, and again it seemed as if there were several mountains descending from above the sky. Flora was relieved to see this. Although this brutal attack would cause some damage to them as well, it would destroy a few ships and stop the rest. Whatever they are up to would end. Just before the branches landed, the engines started, and most of the spaceships disappeared. Southern Region, Winter Eagle City. The Winter Eagle City is one of the cities belonging to the giant race, or more precisely, belonging to the scum of the giant race. Just a small city that is always in danger since it is close to the Great Line with the Central Region. That is not mentioning the freezing weather in this area most of the year. Because of this, the large giants tribes ignored it, and it soon became inhabited by criminals and bandits. Poverty, disease, and crime became the main headline here. With the passing of the days, everyone in the southern region forgot about it completely and just thought of it as a large open prison. A few years ago, hundreds of black masked individuals came to the city at night and slaughtered everyone. Since that day, it had become a refuge for the Shadow Swords in the southern region. Then they brought in the Rune Masters and Divine Blacksmiths to set up a space portal here and make it the permanent headquarters of the true beginning empire. That suicidal bastard. Damn it. I almost had him. Stop talking and focus on recovering. The city is currently filled with domes of green energy, and in each dome, only one person sits. These were the martial emperors injured in the battle. Whenever one of them gets injured on the battlefield, they are drawn back to the city to receive treatment in their own field hospital array, and another martial emperor would be sent to continue the battle in his stead. So far, 20 martial emperors have been seriously injured, and all of them are sitting under 20 separate domes, screaming in pain or sitting in a meditative position. Some of them were even explaining to their mates what is currently happening on the front and about the strength of their opponents. Around those domes, there were a decent number of individuals walking around freely collecting information from the injured. Some were demi-humans and some were pure humans. From their haughty appearance and the careless way they wore their armor, it was clear that they were martial emperors as well. But that look of condescension and relaxed stance immediately vanished when a person dressed in black appeared over the city. We have detected a new case of injury. The replacement operation is currently being prepared. Please come with me, Emperor Philane of the Kingdom of the Plains. It is your turn to join the battle. Yes. That emperor immediately gave the military salute and flew behind the Shadow Sword with respect, while the rest of the emperors returned to breathing again. Being emperors didn't make them forget what it means to stand before an emperor from the Shadow Sword forces, that secret organization that works directly for His Highness Prince Theo, an organization that no one knows the number of its members or how it is spread. There are only very few things everyone knows. One is that the senior officers in this organization are members of the Burton family, and that all members of the organization took a severe oath that almost made them abandon their humanity. The emperors of Greenland and the Orphan Blood knew very well that they could mess with the main army of the true beginning empire and could even speak to the likes of Elizabeth, Gu, and the rest of the commanders easily, But with the martial emperors of the Shadow Swords there was no talking. There was only respect and fear. "Hey brother, hasn't His Excellency said anything about that purple cloud yet?" One of the emperors from Greenland inside the dome asked in pain. 3 of his fingers were missing due to one of those clouds. The brother he called was a sword shadow in Sagehood domain, who responded in a modified voice. "His Excellency naturally knows about the purple cloud. He is telling you to hold on until he finds a solution. Haha, as long as His Excellency works on the matter, it is finished." The emperor laughed out loud. Part of him was happy that His Excellency knew of his pain, and the other part was happy that the Shadow Sword responded to him. Then that emperor returned to looking at a few emperors standing on the edge of his green dome. "I don't want you to be afraid of that cloud. Guys, just always put a distance between you and your opponent when you feel that you are about to win. His Excellency has provided us with the best weapons and techniques. There is no need to be afraid of a few damn reptiles." One of the demi-humans hissed, not liking the words. "Ahaha. You know I don't mean you, brother lizard. I love you." That emperor laughed sheepishly, then opened his mouth to continue. "Virum, what the hell is going on?" At this moment, dozens of spaceships appeared above the city. "What brings them here? Isn't this a safe zone?" Boom. All ships fired their cannons at the same time. "Humph. You overestimate yourselves." Everyone in the city was martial emperors, and even the injured ones were able to quickly dodge the attacks or simply block them. The Emperor of the Shadow Swords came out again and announced loudly, "New mission. Fend off the enemies until support arrives. General Descartes and General Snoist are on their way here." "Fend off the enemies? I will take down those bastards myself." One martial emperor after the other shot upward, ignoring cannon shots and strong gravity. After a large number of the tribes of the Orphan Blood Planet submitted to the true beginning empire and received perfect techniques for the laws, they witnessed an increase in the number of emperors. Over the past few years, the total number has reached roughly 190. As for Greenland, their situation was even better. After all, most of the geniuses on planet Orphan Blood were killed, while Greenland still maintained a strong infrastructure. So, after establishing the 4 kingdoms and subjugating the geniuses of the rest of the tribes with oath tablets, the number of emperors during those years reached 350 or so, with the number still increasing. This means that in addition to the 150 emperors currently fighting at the Great Line, there are 400 here waiting for their turn. Haha! You saved us the trip. Boom. 120 space warships armed with thousands of cannons couldn't handle a single round. Immediately, 7 ships fell while the rest of them began to collapse left and right. It was clear that the enemy generals were in shock at the number of emperors present there, which delayed their reaction, but it did not last long. The doors of the spaceships opened and 300 martial emperors descended from them. Boom. At first glance, the observer would think that the forces of Greenland and Orphan's Blood would prevail due to their numbers, but the quality was overwhelming in favor of the fleets of the Great Serpent Empire, as there were a large number of them in middle-level martial emperors. The large, random fight did not happen as everyone expected. The 300 emperor invaders gathered to make a large formation. Then they rushed towards the metal arch in the middle of the city. They rushed towards the space portal. What are these idiots doing? Kill them all! The emperors of Orphan Blood and Greenland began sending attacks from all directions on their enemies. Even if the difference in levels between them was large, receiving this kind of damage was not something they could ignore. In the first round, 9 emperors of the invaders fell to the ground, and it was unknown whether they were still dead or alive. But the rest still continued on their way toward the unprotected space portal. Boom. Beware from your right. Your right. General Deeret bit his thin lip as he heard the cries of his followers left and right. Even after 1,000,000 years, he would not have expected that what was waiting in this spot were 400 enemy martial emperors. If he had known this information, he would have thought 1,000 times before ordering them to come. But it was too late. If they had returned now to their ships and waited until the engines were ready for maximum speed again, these local emperors would have shot down several ships and killed a large number of them before they could move. If today's losses are inevitable, then at least he must complete the mission he came for. Come forward. Get that thing to me at any cost. Boom. The great serpent emperors were in a purely defensive formation, yet it did not completely succeed in stopping the locals' enthusiasm. From the time they took the formation until this moment, only a few seconds had passed, but 15 great serpent emperors had already fallen without a trace of life in their eyes. Many among them suffered severe injuries too. "Damn it!" General Molad shouted. A large portion of the fallen emperors were from his fleet. General Jake didn't look too well either. They both sent reproachful glances towards Dirit, but they continued information. The losses were huge, but they now understood the meaning of Dirit's actions. Continuing the fight on this planet without knowing what is happening around them would be an even greater disaster. If they put their hands on that thing, they will have the advantage of information for the first time since they landed on this damned planet. The losses were huge, but they now understood the meaning of Dirit's actions. Continuing the fight on this planet without knowing what is happening around them would be an even greater disaster. If they put their hands on that thing, they will have the advantage of information for the first time since they landed on this damned planet. "We're almost there. Keep going," General Dirit shouted again. The massive metal arch that formed the space portal coming into their sights. At this moment, the general heard the sound of someone suffocating next to him. When he automatically looked back, he found one of the emperors of his fleet slaughtered. He was trying to grab his neck as if he wanted to stick it in place again, but there was no way to take back time. The general watched his subordinate as life seeped out of his body. This strange incident was not a one-time thing, but rather the beginning of something terrifying. One emperor after another felt daggers squeezing their hearts from behind, or seen their own bodies as their heads falling to the ground. The black-clothed assassins. The black-clothed assassin emperors have infiltrated the formation. General Molad shouted in horror when his eyes caught the perpetrators of this massacre. The way these villains appear and disappear in the blink of an eye after eliminating their target is terrifying. A black-masked person appeared on the path of the great serpent emperors. He was wearing black clothes and a few pieces of black armor scattered around his body. His hair was dark and long and his eyes were cold. It was His Highness Theo. Theo opened his mouth and spoke in his normal voice. "I don't know what you're trying to do here, and I don't like to be the one who doesn't know the protection has been lifted. You will pay with your blood for every step you take." Then he disappeared again. The next moment another scream rang out. This time General Dirit was horrified when he knew that this was the voice of a mid-level emperor. "Advance!" But he continued advancing anyway, raising his weapon. Boom! General Dirit lowered his broadsword onto the metal arch. The arch, which was made of a mixture of the hardest metals, was severely dented but did not collapse immediately. But fortunately he was not alone. Boom! Dozens of emperors descended with their weapons, one behind the other, on the space portal and its surroundings. In the blink of an eye, this quiet spot was transformed into a storm of dust and fire that covered the entire city. Take advantage of the opportunity. Rain attacks on them while they are on the ground. Even though they could no longer see what was happening below due to the thick cloud of dust, the emperors of Orphan Blood and Greenland did not hesitate for a moment and focused all their strength on destroying the ground. Only after a full minute, the emperors of the Great Snake Empire began to rush again towards their ships, this time in a narrower formation. Kill them all! The opportunity to gain more easy points flashed in the eyes of the emperors of Orphan and Greenland Blood, and they launched attacks on them and on the ships that were preparing to set off again. The emperors and ships fell one after another, but that did not prevent a large number of great serpent emperors from returning to what remained of the ships and disappearing from sight during the next moment. A woman from the demi-human mountain hawk tribe smacks her thick thigh. "I was about to take down another one. Ha ha ha, look at all those corpses and destroyed ships on the ground. And that did we lose? An empty metal arch. Ha ha ha. Those fools thought they did something by destroying the portal. They didn't know that we could build 10 more in less than a month." A martial emperor from Greenland burst out laughing. "Shooting down one of the ships will give him a lot of points for sure. His Excellency will not blame us for killing so many of them, right? This place is not part of the battlefield. We were just in self-defense, right?" One of the emperors of the Grassland Rat Kingdom scratched his head. The enemy's losses were too great. Haha, don't worry. The Shadow Swords participated with us and killed as many as we did. Another one laughed and pointed towards the dust cloud below where he could feel a number of Shadow Swords jumping around. But the laughter was quickly wiped from his face. After the dust settled a little, he saw the Supreme Shadow Sword, His Highness Prince Theo, standing with his eyebrows furrowed. His Highness Prince Theo's face was always cold and his eyes looked like bottomless wells. Seeing these expressions on his face did not bode well. Also, the movement of the Shadow Swords like a hornet hive was terrifying. No one knows whether they are angry because they failed to foresee this attack or whether they are preparing for something else, and no one wants to know. That emperor quickly looked next to him. Hey, let's get out of here. I don't want to be around those crazy people right now. You're right, but where do we go? One of the emperors of the Orphan Blood Planet felt a shiver in his lower back at the sight of the Shadow Swords below. Those ships are heading towards the battlefield. Judging by their speed, I'm afraid they will arrive in 2 or 3 minutes. Why don't we use the instant teleportation arrays and go wait for them there? A woman with a foxtail clapped excitedly. They saw our numbers and fought us anyway. There is no point in staying here any longer. Haha, okay. I want to see how they look when they see us again after they barely escaped. And I agree, let's go. Virum. Ahahaha. The demi-human dragonfly female emerged from a small space vortex and directly stabbed her closest opponent. What is happening here? The emperors of the Great Serpent panicked. In the blink of an eye, dozens of space vortexes opened and one emperor after another emerged from them until the number of new arrivals reached nearly 400. This means that they are now fighting 150 against 500. Damn it. Focus on protecting your lives. Your lives! General Sully felt the sky infulling over his head. Their battle earlier was difficult enough. Now it was just a massacre. Damn you, Deeret. Damn you for abandoning us. General Pars also started looking around like crazy. If the rest of the fleets were here, they would have managed to put up a fight, and even if they felt that they would be defeated, they could have withdrawn. But how could they withdraw now when there were more than 500,000 soldiers on the ground? The remaining ships cannot carry this number of soldiers. Should they just leave them here? Ah! Get away. Arg! Pars began to sweat. All the roads in front of him were closed. Even if he wanted to help his followers and then take his fleet and retreat, that giant Treyant would not allow him to move. Pars slowly looked in front of him again through gritted teeth, then raised his weapon. That's enough. Show me how strong a damn tree can be. Then he pounces forward, whether helping his followers or escaping. He must first get rid of Tavina's close surveillance. Not far away, Flora stopped a martial emperor from the Red Flame Dragon tribe. Hey, what's going on? Why did you all break the plan and come? Oh, young lady, didn't you know? Those ships that left here Ilrir attacked Winter Eagle City and destroyed the space portal. They had already seen our numbers. There was no need to hide any longer, so we came to collect some points. Haha. What? How did they know about that place? Were there any losses other than the space portal? Flora furrowed her eyebrows. No, we are all fine. That emperor shrugged. We do not know the reason for the attack nor why they destroyed the space portal either. The Shadow Swords are still there investigating the matter. Flora also frowned. This is ridiculous and doesn't seem strategic at all. Maybe they don't know that the portal is something that can be easily rebuilt? Or perhaps they thought the portal was the source of the small space vortexes. This is permissible since they do not know anything about teleportation matrices yet. Boom! The next moment, a loud sound was heard, breaking the sound barrier and clearly breaking some bones. Dozens of ships appeared again and rammed into all the martial emperors in their path. Then they quickly landed and a loud voice was heard from them commanding the soldiers, "Return to your ships immediately. Deeret, you bastard. I knew you wouldn't dare run away." Sully cursed again, but inwardly he breathed a sigh of relief. "You're not going anywhere." A demi-human with the head of a bull became angry after colliding with one of the ships and took out his weapon. It was clear that he wanted to see blood, but he felt a hand grabbing his wrist. When he was about to evade it and curse its owner, he heard Flora's voice shouting at him, "Don't forget our mission. We are not here to kill or score points. Then she raised her voice so that the rest could hear her in the common language of planet Jura. Do not do anything that you will regret when His Excellency finds out. Be wise, it will be better for you. As a bucket of cold water was poured over their heads, the emperors of Greenland and Orphan Blood calmed the pace considerably. Some of those who were preparing to launch their strongest attack also stopped. However, the battle did not stop. The sudden withdrawal announcement destroyed everything that the Imperial ground forces were striving for and wasted the land they had painstakingly captured. They also had no line left to defend, so they received attacks from all directions, and the death toll among the ground forces quickly accumulated. Move! 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 After the last soldier entered the ships, the generals gave the signal to retreat. One by one, the ships rose and then set off towards the horizon. This isn't over yet. The heavily wounded Pars pointed at the Tree Father and shouted, spitting blood, then turned and raced towards the nearest ship, and with a swoosh he disappeared with the rest of them. Flora looked towards the horizon as she watched the ships disappear towards the central region as planned. Then she looked down to see what was not planned. I think we should have expected this from a war. We can't hold the soldiers' hands whenever they try to attack. Fogan appeared next to her and sighed, not knowing if he was comforting her or himself. The destruction on the ground was terrifying. The war was already raging, and during that unplanned withdrawal more bodies piled up. Just by the looks of it, more than 100,000 of the invaders' soldiers were killed today. Then Flora scanned her eyes a little. There were several spots on the ground where a pale person was lying, and around him was a ring of soldiers staring at her and messing with his body. Each one of them was an emperor. The time frame between the appearance of support coming from the Winter Eagle City and the arrival of the space warships was roughly 4 minutes, and during these 4 minutes the death toll among the invading martial emperors accumulated until it reached 15 bodies, in addition to the destruction of 20 ships. The king of the Grozing Rats Kingdom landed next to Flora and Fogan, and spoke seriously. I think this can be considered minor damage if we looked at it from another point of view. Fogan looked to the side angrily. Didn't you hear that they suffered heavy losses at Winter Eagle City as well? His Excellency will kill us. Which point of view should we look at to see the situation better? Charvier tilted his head to the side. This point of view, ahaha. Then he burst out laughing and flew away. I will kill him. I will. Heh. Fogan started cursing loudly but caught himself and sighed. It doesn't matter. At least we have a gift for His Excellency. What gift is that? Flora quickly turned around. Anything to get them out of this predicament. There. Fogan indicated with a slight movement, smiling. Flora followed the movement of his hand and saw a few people bound in chains and stabbed with sealing nails, all of them making a groaning sound from the intensity of pain, missing one of their limbs, and some of them had their interiors touching the ground. Flora herself could not tell whether they were forced to kneel or if they collapsed from the severity of pain. But what matters is that they are all alive, and their aura says that they are all martial emperors. These are the first prisoners of importance since the war began. In the central region, I will kill you. General Sully punched Dirrit and pinned him to the ship's wall, then attacked him again. Take it easy. There must be an explanation. General Pars quickly took a few steps and grabbed Sully from behind. There is no reason for Brother Dirrit to just leave us for death, and he did return to us in the end. Let's just hear him out first. What explanation? He left us in the middle of the battle where we were subjected to a brutal attack from local reinforcements. Then he came and ordered a fast retreat, which made us lose many of our good followers. What is he going to say that can make up for all of this? Sully pushed himself forward to get rid of Par's grip, then pointed towards Generals Molad and Jake. Look at their faces. Even they don't know what the hell is going on. At this moment, Molad and Jake were sitting on the side silently, one of them placing both his hands on his head and the other seeming to be holding himself back from crying. All the losses have not been counted in detail yet, but initial indicators say that they lost more than 50 martial emperors and 40 spaceships today. This is a disaster in every sense of the word. This is what you have done to yourselves because you preferred this scoundrel over me. If you had chosen me as the leader of the unified army, we would have been victorious today. General Dirrit spat out some blood and stood up straight again. And how exactly did you intend to defeat the 550 martial emperors who participated in the battle, Mr. Victor? No, perhaps I should ask what you intended to do against the 3 giants Traians? I was going to find a solution, Sully shouted after stuttering for a second. I would have certainly done a better job than you. Because of you, we suffered huge losses and we couldn't kill a single emperor from the locals. You say that you destroyed the space portal. Oh my joy! Immediately after that, the 400 emperors moved from the portal site and arrived on the battlefield before you. They surrounded us and killed many of our brothers. That portal was mostly a trap. Damn it, Dirit, even if an ordinary soldier took your place, he would have done a better job. I would report your failure to the High Command and throw you beyond the sun. General Dirit smiled, then snapped his finger, and 2 people entered carrying a metal plate. Ever since everyone's eyes fell on the plate, they knew that it was not an ordinary piece of metal. The plate was neither small nor large. It was full of runes that looked like separate letters and numbers. And what was strange was that the plate had its own energy and a special aura. General Pars stepped forward. This aura. I felt it before when I used the space portal in the Poison Rock planet. The shape of this thing is not strange to me either. Then he opened his eyes to the last of them and looked at Dirit. Is this the coordinate input panel? Dirit nodded with a smile. We have been using the space portal for 10,000 years and have traveled with it countless times to the middle planetary belt. If we send this tablet to the space portal specialists, surely they will be able to know the coordinates the locals used by then. Sully interrupted. Then the upper management will know that you are crazy and lost almost a quarter of the army for some bullshit. It is just a trivial portal on a trivial young planet. What kind of coordinates will they find? For example, the location of the locals in the northern region? The location of the favorite brothel to the 4th truth chosen. Dirit furrowed his eyebrows but did not say anything. What Sully is saying is not far from the truth. If the coordinates they find are not important enough to compensate for all these losses, his neck will be the price. General Pars stared at the tablet. How did you manage to take it from them? This plate is something extremely important. The Overlord told them to die before their coordinate input panel falls into the hands of an enemy. We pretended to destroy the portal. It became all dust and lava over there. They will not notice the disappearance of such a small piece. They will think that it was destroyed with the rest of the portal. Dirit laughed maliciously. Humph, what a punch of nonsense. Those locals most likely doesn't even know we can retrieve the coordinates. Maybe if you asked nice they might have gave it to you. Sully stuck out his cleft tongue. You don't have to worry about his nonsense. The one who will get rewarded or punished is Dirit alone. Pars approached again and stared at the plate excitedly. Whether he is punished or rewarded is not important. In all cases we will get all the coordinates used by the locals. By then this planet will be ours. At least pretend you care about my fate. General Dirit spat sideways. Huh? Ha ha ha, of course I care. Come on. Hurry up and send it to the upper management so you can be rewarded. Pars laughed loudly and patted Dirit. Dirit also did not delay. After using the plate to calm their anger, he immediately ordered his deputies to take it themselves to the mother world and return with the results. Then he returned to the same room to continue the meeting. Okay then, consider me stepping down from my position until the results come out. What do you want to do now? This time he seemed comfortable, so he chose a large chair and leaned his head back. Being a leader gives a lot of psychological pressure. We must forget about the southern region for now. We can win, no doubt, but they require all our strength to deal with them. We must protect our back as well. General Pars was clearly thinking about the matter before he asked Dirit. Shall we go east? Brother Sully managed to hold on there with only half a fleet. You want to go to the east where a damned master law user resides? Good luck with that. General Sully shook his head. Don't be fooled by the 70 emperors that appeared there when I attacked. Today we saw that they are deliberately hiding their strength. Perhaps there are hundreds of emperors in the east as well, but they are waiting for the right moment to come out. What about the north? Pars furrowed his eyebrows. General Molad shook his head. The investigations we have about the strength of the north say that they are not weaker than the south. Then all that remains is the west. Dirit laughed and sent a look towards Sully but did not speak. Sully almost crushed his molars. No one else spoke either, but they understood the meaning behind that laugh. From what they had seen so far, the disappearance of half of the 14th Fleet in the western region was not a coincidence. At least they were able to resist and retreat from the east and south, but those who went to the west simply disappeared. General Jake finally pulled his head out of his hands. I don't want to go anywhere else. We have the entire central region under our control. Let's just stay here and search for energy pearls. He was the last general appointed and the least in terms of the number of ships and Emperor Realm followers, and today he lost more than a quarter of his forces. Each of the 4 regions has a strength equal to the resistance on one of the planets we are currently in was with, and perhaps more, and yet here in the central region everyone was evacuated upon our arrival. General Pars muttered, I am beginning to feel that we have taken control of the region central a little too easily. Everyone looked at each other but not in shock. Of course, they had all thought about this point by now, but what should they do with this information? We're 5 fleets and we can't do anything? Bam! General Pars's voice gradually grew louder until he shouted and General Pars hit the metal table. Breaking it? Derit, when will the coordinates come? Derit raised his thin eyebrows slightly and began to calculate. It took us a year to arrive to help Brother Seagal because they had to summon us from different planets, and we waited until we gathered and the men and supplies were mobilized. We were also moving slowly because of the size of the fleet and because some of the ships were slower than the others, but if it is a quick round trip to the Poison Rock planet using a correspondence ship, then I think we will not have to wait more than 2 months to get a reply. Planet Greenland, the rolling hill. An adult male shouted like a goat seeing a knife. That man was nothing the planet Greenland had seen before. He was white in color and his skin was cracked all over like scales. He did not have a nose on his face, only 2 holes in its place. His ears were not there either. His eyeballs were like a fine line and he had long fangs that appear when he opens his mouth. The Great Serpent Empire soldier kept screaming for a full minute, before his voice was silenced forever. Robin threw the body out of his hand like it was trash, looking at the rest of the prisoners with apparent annoyance. The soldiers, whose hands were stained with the blood of countless souls, trembled as if they saw the specter of death. At this moment a voice appeared. I seek permission to enter. Oh Theo, come on. Robin looked towards the source of the voice for a moment, before his features changed from annoyance to a slight smile, and he went to sit down. I was thinking about taking a break anyway. Whoosh! Theo walked past the closed door without touching it. It seems that the research is going well. Is there anything new regarding the purple poison cloud? You have a lot of war comrades here, you must see it often. Ever since the war began, no, even before that, Robin has been spending most of his time here. Sometimes researching a way to speed up the manufacturing of the revolutionary instant arrays, or spending some time creating an escape from Earth technique for the Tree Fathers, or simply increasing his energy level and understanding the matters of the soul faster. But recently he was forced to be busy with something else, researching the imprisoned soldiers of the Great Serpent Empire. Not as many as you think. At first, whenever I caught one of them, they called me that cloud, but when they learned that I was trying to see it and that I was able to neutralize it with the click of my finger, they began to prefer death rather than attack me with it. It started to get frustrating. Robin shook his head. There is not much room here, Your Excellency. They all see what you are doing to their comrades. Perhaps you should listen to my advice and go to your palace on planet Jura. There is an entire underground city dedicated to prison and research waiting for you there. What, are you also ashamed of calling me a father like that idiot, peon? Robin furrowed his eyebrows reproachfully. Theo let out a small laugh and shook his head. Ashamed? Just talking to you is an honor, Your Excel father. This is better. Regarding the issue of the palace, I thought about it, but I want to leave the capital to Richard for now. If he knew that I live in the palace right next to him, perhaps it would restrict his movement. Robin scratched his head and then asked, How is he doing now? He hasn't entered the capital yet. Theo shook his head. Caesar is dragging him around all your continents and planets. They are currently in the Death Butterfly tribe on Orphan Blood Planet, but as far as I know, Orphan Blood Planet is the last stop, and after that, they will head to the Imperial capital. They are still out there. Richard has to get involved with the Burton and Bradley families to feel like he belongs again. Why have they been wandering around for months? That bastard Caesar wants to evade his responsibilities to take a vacation and found the perfect opportunity. Robin became agitated but quickly calmed down. Never mind, just let them be. Seeing how vast his father's empire was might make Richard realize his responsibilities a little. Then he snapped his finger as if he remembered something, returning to the purple poison cloud. It is indeed an attack related to the bloodline of this race, as was my initial conclusion, but at the same time it is just a normal attack using a heavenly law. Do you understand anything? An attack that has something to do with their bloodline? But they are demi-humans, right? Why don't the rest of the demi-humans on the orphan blood planet have this property? Theo stepped forward to take a closer look at the soldiers sitting on the ground. Here we return to the other part. It's just a normal attack using a heavenly law. Our followers on the orphan blood planet already have this property. But you don't feel it. All half-humans derive an affinity towards a certain heavenly law from their beastly half. For example, the Red Flame Dragon tribe has a strong affinity toward the Minor Flame Law and the Minor Blood Explosion Law. This creates the explosive red flame effect that you see in all of their fights. Another example is Aru, the half-lightning bull who has a natural affinity towards a few of the minor lightning and wind laws. Demi-humans who have these natural affinities, even if they haven't cultivated all their lives, those laws at least wouldn't hurt them as much if they were exposed to it. For example, it's very difficult to burn flora. Robin then pointed towards the soldiers of the Great Serpent Empire. As for those in front of you, they have an affinity for a minor law that I have called corrosion, a minor law of the path of destruction, it seems. Destruction path. This looks dangerous. Theo's view of soldiers changed dramatically. Yes, the heavenly laws have a clear order, and the major heavenly law of destruction stands shoulder to shoulder with the likes of chaos and death. It's definitely something you shouldn't mess with. Fortunately, what these people have is just a minor law. Robin rubbed his forehead, and more fortunately, they're not real demi-humans. Theo turned back quickly but did not say anything, waiting for his adoptive father to finish what he said. I conducted a lot of tests on Flora, as you know. She uses the major fire law technique, but when she uses it, she produces that red flame due to the modifications made by the variable particles in her blood. Those modifications do not come without a price. Even the variable particles are consumed and die like any vital thing. Whenever she uses that red flame, she consumes the variable particles in her body. They burn and disappear with every passing moment, but her bones, which are saturated with her demi-human marrow, can produce more blood that replaces what was burned. So when demi-humans use their abilities for long, their strength is temporarily reduced during battle, but at least they can continue fighting, and after a short rest, they return to their best condition after their marrow recovers all the burned blood. This is why even if you drained out all the blood of a demi-human, his blood would be filled with these variable particles again in no time. Robin then pointed a few times toward the soldiers. As for these ones, they are a little different. They have the variable particles of a half-human. Some of them have a higher density than the others, while some have almost all human blood. So far this is normal in demi-humans. What is not normal is that their marrow is completely that of humans, so when they use the capabilities of this blood and it burns, it is not replaced. And of course, gaining pure human blood in a mutant body like this causes instant death. But the marrow is the origin of blood. If their marrow is human, then that means. Even Theo, who did not know much about these matters, noticed something strange. Of course, he did not ask how his father knew about the content of the marrow. The broken bones lying everywhere said enough. Exactly. Robin looked at the soldiers again. Those freaks were humans like you and me. They are artificial demi-humans.